In the beginning of the drama, we are told that the Joseon dynasty ruled Korea for 600 years, and now, the royal family follows the constitution of present-day Korea. The absolute powers that the royal families used to have now become a class, and those people come among the elite people of Korea. Then we see a prestigious school called the Royal Academy. The results for the spring exam of 2009 has arrived. Everyone goes to see their rank. There we see a boy named Min-soo, who belonged to a royal family, checking the ranking board of his class. A girl named Song Hee-ju is on the first position, and Min-soo has come second, which makes him very annoyed. Then we see our female lead, Song Hee-ju. She comes to Min-soo and says, "You lost again." Min-soo says, "Were you scared of me? Is that why you worked so hard?" Hee-ju laughs and says, "Was the study difficult for you? It was very simple for me. Try harder next time." Hearing this, Min-soo tells her, "You are not from a noble family like us, so don't forget your place." On this, Hee-ju says, "Next time, put in a little effort. Beating you so easily every time isn't fun anymore. You're a noble man, aren't you? And first, learn to wear your uniform properly." Saying this, she leaves. In the next scene, we see Hee-ju being called to the principal's office. The principal first praises Hee-ju, then asks her, "Do you even know why the king built this school?" Hee-ju says, "Yes, so that everyone gets equal opportunity." Cutting her off mid-sentence, the principal picks up an antique pot and asks Hee-ju, "Do you know who made this?" It was Jung Young-shil from the era of King Sejong. Even though he was the son of a courtesan, he was brilliant. Saying this, the principal gives Hee-ju the cup as a gift, but Hee-ju realizes he is talking about her being illegitimate. So Hee-ju comes out very angrily with the cup and throws it away. Then, the story moves few years later. Hee-ju is now the CEO of Castle Beauty. She is in a meeting with her employees. She is angry at everyone because their sales had become slightly lower than their competitors. An employee says, "But we are still #1 in preference ranking right now." Meanwhile, our rival company gave a 50% discount in the name of a launch event and made an ad with a famous celebrity, making it go viral through inorganic methods. Hee-ju says, "Now we have to beat them at their own game. That celebrity refused our offer, right? Dig up dirt on her. We'll definitely find something." Then she tells them to have the volume of their products so that people, fearing it might sell out, will buy more. Just then, Hee-yu's secretary, Hae-jung, arrives to remind her that she has to attend the royal king's birthday celebration, so she needs to leave immediately. Hearing this, Hee-ju gets an idea. She says, "Since I am going to the palace today, I am going to create a crazy buzz there for our company. So all of you just write articles and make videos go viral everywhere. And the killer headline will be, 'The heir of the Castle Group was invited to the king's birthday banquet.'" Later, Hee-jung asks her, "Are you really going to inherit the Castle Group?" Hee-ju says, "No. But what's the harm in saying it? And spreading such rumors is exactly what PR is, right?" Then in the next scene, we see our main lead, Grand Prince Ian, who has just returned from hunting and is taking a shower. Court ladies are waiting for him outside. Then we see Ian's assistant, Choi, arrives. He tells them that he will bring the Grand Prince. Then he goes inside and asks, "What gift have you prepared?" Pointing a gun at him, Ian says, "I've only been seeing blood since morning. I didn't get time to think about that." Choi says, "You shouldn't have gone for hunting today. You should have reached the palace by now, and why are you still wearing the hunting dress? Change it quickly." But Ian refuses and leaves for the banquet. Meanwhile, at the palace, all the guests are arriving in traditional and formal dresses. Hee-ju comes out of her luxury red car and she is wearing a red dress. The reporters immediately start taking her photos, while Hee-ju begins posing like a celebrity. Reporters start talking about how Hee-ju actually came in a red dress, which shocks everyone because no one except the king wears a red dress in the palace. Meanwhile, her team is busy doing full PR. Articles are being written. Videos and photos are trending everywhere. Whatever bag Hee-ju has, whatever dress she has, they post it online and it quickly sells out. In the next scene, Hee-ju is drinking alone. Next to her, there are 3 girls gossiping about her, saying, "She is Chairman Song's illegitimate daughter. Nobody knew about her until she was 10 years old. His mistress left her with Chairman Song. That's why she's dressed like this. What else can you expect from an illegitimate daughter?" Hearing this, Hee-ju breaks her wine glass, shows it to them, and smiles, which makes the 3 of them run away. Just then, Hee-ju's half-brother, Min-jin, comes to tease her about her company's sales having dropped. But Hee-ju tells him, "You babble like dog. From tomorrow, wear a leash instead of a tie. It'll suit you." She tightens his tie. Just then, a court lady arrives to call everyone inside for dinner. Inside, everyone is sitting at the table to eat. We see that the king is a child. His name is Yoon. Next to him is his mother, Irene, who is the queen mother. The seat on the left side of the king is empty, which is for Grand Prince Ian, who is the acting king because the king is a minor. After a while, Ian arrives. Everyone stands up seeing Ian. Yoon is happy to see his uncle, but Irene starts scolding him. What kind of dress is this? Ian says, King Yoon gave it to me, so I thought it would be good. Yoon says, you look perfect. Irene wants to scold him more, but Ian says, you can give me the lecture later. Saying this, he sits on his throne. Meanwhile, Heju is also looking at Ian. Meanwhile, the king is performing all his birthday ceremonies. In a paper, he has to write his wishes. He writes, I want my mother to be happy, my uncle to be happy, and the whole public to be happy. Heju is watching fireworks near the royal lake. Then Ian also arrives there, and Heju keeps looking at him. Then the Prime Minister, Jung-ho, sees Heju and comes to talk to her. Heju teases him a little for wearing pink clothes. Jung-ho says, I am now the Prime Minister of the royal cabinet. I have to follow the rule. Then he praises Heju, because under her leadership, Castle Beauty is growing a lot. Then he asks, you wore this dress intentionally, right? Because you know very well that wearing red is not allowed in the palace. Heju says, so what? I'm not breaking any law. Just then, Choi comes to Jung-ho and says, Ian wants to meet you. In the next scene, Jung-ho comes to Ian and asks, why do you leave alone like this without telling anyone? Ian says, why? Are you afraid someone might kill me? Jung-ho says, no, I'm worried that your secretary will surely die someday worrying about you. Ian suddenly asks him, when are you getting married? Jung-ho says, where did the topic of marriage come from all of a sudden? Ian says, because I am the one getting married. Jung-ho is a little surprised. Ian says, after getting married, I'll have to leave the palace. After I leave, all the work I do will have to be done by you, because the king is only 8 years old and can't be involved in state affairs. Jung-ho says, forgive me, but I won't be able to do the work. On this, Ian says, okay then, use your veto power. According to the Royal Family Act, royal marriage requires the approval of the royal cabinet. Saying this, he leaves. Jung-ho says he could have just told me he doesn't want to get married. He scared me for no reason. Meanwhile, Heju, searching for network on her phone, wanders into a restricted area. Just then, Ian arrives and asks, who are you? Heju bows her head to greet him. Ian comes closer and asks, name. Heju apologizes and says she lost her way. Ian asks again, name? And what is your relation to the palace? So, Heju tells him her name and says she has no relation to the palace. Then Ian, coming toward her, says no one except the royal family and palace's staff is allowed here. If you leave before my count of 3, I will forget that you ever came here. Heju looks at him, so Ian says, I can do at least this much for my junior. Saying this, he starts the countdown. Just then, an explosion is heard from the palace side. Hearing this, he tells Heju to stay there and heads toward the palace. Inside, everyone is running here and there. The king is inside. No one knows what happened to him. Seeing all this, Ian remembers a flashback from 3 years ago. In a similar fire incident, the previous king, Ian's older brother, was killed. This scares him a lot and he is about to go find the little king. Just then, the queen mother comes from behind and slaps him. She says, do you want to take another king's life now? Hearing this, everyone is surprised. But just then, the little king calls his mother from behind, so the queen mother goes to her child. However, we see Heju had followed him, and seeing all this, she is shocked. The fire is brought under control. Prime Minister Jung-ho thinks someone deliberately set the fire, so he increases palace security and tells the press to be controlled so they don't spread rumors. Heju also comes outside. Secretary Hae-jong asks her how she got out so quickly. Heju tells her about the fire incident. Hearing this, Hae-jong starts asking about Prince Ian, whether he is okay. Heju asks, are you his fan? Is that why you're so worried about him? Saying this, they both leave. Ha-jong asks, do you have some beef with Grand Prince Ian? I mean, he also studied at the Royal Academy of Korea, so he didn't bully you in school or something, did he? Heju says, just because. Then she recalls a scene from the past. Heju came secretly to the archery range at night to practice. After training for a while, Ian comes from behind and asks, who are you? What's your name? She tells her name and says she is from the 9th grade. Ian says children below 10th grade can't come here. Didn't you know? Heju says, what about you? What are you doing here? Ian takes out the principal's approval letter and says, I have approval. Heju asks, how did you get it? Ian explains, I have a match tomorrow. I was training for that. Later she explains how she came. She shows a key and says, I stole this key from Min-soo, who is in 9th grade. If using the archery range is forbidden, then how did he get this key? If my enemy plays dirty and wins, I will also do the same thing so I can win. I don't care about your rules. Saying this, she leaves. Then the story returns back to the present. The next day, Irene comes to meet Ian and says, I said all that before, please forgive me for that. Ian says Prime Minister Jung-ho was about to take some action. Anyway, I'll explain to him that you apologize. Irene says there was a fire in the palace. The king's life could have been in danger, but everyone was worried about the cut on your face. Ian asks if she blames him for that. Irene says yes, because he is the regent. Ian asks if she wants all responsibilities to be given to their 8-year-old king, which isn't possible. That's why he was made regent. The Queen Mother was worried about Ian's influence because she thinks Ian has overshadowed the king. Hearing this, Ian remembers his childhood. He had scored 100 out of 100 on an exam, but even then, his father wasn't happy. His father told him, never come in the crown prince's way, meaning it was decided from childhood that Ian's older brother would be the king and Ian never would be. Coming back to the present, Ian asks what she wants from him. Irene says, I want you to agree to the marriage then. Marry a girl of my choice. Do this and prove that you are always with the king. Meanwhile, Heeju's father, Hanjuk, has also found a match for her, which Heeju flatly refuses because there's nothing special about that boy. He is just the CEO of a small company. Heeju says, at least find someone equal to me. Just then, Minjun arrives with his wife, Gaeyoung. They say this is the best match they have found worthy of her. Heeju understands that these people are just thinking of throwing her out of the family. Gaeyoung says they tried in many good families to find a match for her. But people look into every little detail when it comes to marriage, and everyone rejected her. With this, she is taking a dig at Heeju being illegitimate. Hearing this, Heeju retorts, then how did you end up marrying a loser like Minjun? This starts another argument between the siblings. Later, Heeju clearly tells her father that she is not marrying that boy and leaves. On the other hand, Ian is leaving the royal palace for a few days. Just then, he meets Mr. Sangwoo, who is the Queen Mother's father, and also a minister in the royal court. Hearing that Ian is going to his private residence, he asks, what about your security? If you face any trouble, Ian says, I thought you'd be happy about my leaving the palace, but you've surprised me by showing concern. Saying this, he leaves. Later, Mr. Sangwoo comes to meet Irene and says, you did all that to Ian. You slapped him, blamed him for the fire. You shouldn't have done that. He is a regent. He has power. The public loves him. Irene says, yes, I know. And that's exactly what worries me. Meanwhile, Heeju is looking for a boy on her own because she knows that if she doesn't do something, her father will get her married to some ordinary guy anyway. So she tells Haegong to check matrimonial profiles of everyone from politicians to businessmen. She says, just find someone equal to my status. It's not like I'm looking for a royal family. Saying this, she gets an idea. Meanwhile, in Heeju's office, there's a lot of discussion about Ian because he is no less than a celebrity. Haejong comes to Heeju praising Ian. She tells her that Grand Prince Ian is trending everywhere right now. While reading articles about him, Heeju says, he's not that bad. Later, she tells Haejong, now I want to marry Ian. But Haejong says, this can't be. How can you think about marrying Grand Prince Ian? Heeju asks, why not? Where will Grand Prince Ian find a girl as beautiful, intelligent, and rich as me? Haejong asks, you haven't told anyone else about this, have you? Haedu says, no, but I have sent a royal audience request to meet Ian. To meet Grand Prince Ian, one has to send a royal audience request, which he must accept. Only then can one meet Ian. Ian had received many audience requests, but he tells Choi to reject them all. Choi informs him that one of them is from the CEO of Castle Beauty, Song Hyuju. Ian rejects her request too. On the other hand, Hyuju gets upset seeing the rejection message for her request. Haejong says, did you think it would be so easy to meet Grand Prince Ian? And besides, you didn't even give a reason for wanting to meet him. Heeju asks, what should I write? That I want to marry you? Haejong says, don't write that at all. Heeju says, he's acting too pricey. But Heeju doesn't give up. She keeps submitting requests repeatedly and keeps getting rejected. Getting rejected repeatedly, Heeju gets frustrated. Then she remembers that on the night of the king's birthday, Ian had said, I can do at least this much for my junior. This gives her an idea. This time, she writes, mentioning your junior. After this, Choi tells Ian that Miss Heju has sent another request, but this time she has written that your junior, Heju, needs some guidance from Senior Grand Prince Ian. Ian smiles and tells Choi to accept the request. Heju is overjoyed to see request accepted. In the evening, she dresses up and arrives at Ian's private residence. The news of her meeting Ian reaches the Irene because they have a spy working as a maid in Ian's private residence. In the next scene, both are sitting face to face. Ian says, I can't figure out what name to call you. You sent requests under so many names, so tell me, why did you want to meet me? Heeju places an envelope in front of Ian and says, I wanted to propose to you. Let's get married. Ian is shocked to hear this. Then the scene shifts to the past when on the evening of the Crown Prince's birthday, when Ian had come to the royal lake to set off fireworks, both of them had seen each other. Then, after Heeju had said all those things to Ian at the archery range, she was very worried at school the next day. Because she had insulted the Grand Prince and the royal family, she was afraid of being expelled from school and of punishment. But just then, her friend calls her to tell her about an announcement, where upon Ian's say-so, from now on, the archery range would be open for everyone at all times and everyone would get a chance to practice. Seeing this, Heeju gets very surprised. Then, the scene shifts and we see another scene from the past. The 64th archery competition is about to start. We see that Minsu is on Ian's team and Jung Ha is in Heeyu's team. Minsu is looking at Heeju and making nasty comments. Ian overhears everything, scolds him into silence, and warns him never to do that again. Later, The match begins. In almost every round, Ian's team is leading, and Heeju's team is just 1 point behind them. Ian's father, the king, has also come to watch the match. Then comes the final round. Ian's team is leading with 102 points, while Heeju's team has 101. Heeju and Ian are the ones to shoot the final arrows. Heeju scores 9 points, bringing her team to 110 points. Now everyone's eyes are on Ian. Ian shoots his arrow, and the scene returns to the present. Heeju and Ian are both looking at each other. Ian takes out his fan and starts fanning himself. Heeju asks, "You're not surprised?" Ian says, "I've received more than 10 proposals in the last 2 days. So tell me, what are your terms?" Heeju says, "I have a lot of money." Hearing this, Ian starts laughing and says, "I thought you'd say something creative." Heeju says, "Why waste creativity on this? Arranged marriages are like this. Considering money, status, and family, you must know about my family. I am intelligent, successful. I have an older brother who is a bit dumb, so he won't cause any problems." Ian asks, "What else?" Heeju says, "I have very thick skin, so criticism doesn't affect me, but I'll make sure you never have to face criticism. Like a human shield, I will protect you from any criticism. And after the contract ends, we'll get a divorce, and I'll take the blame myself. So you don't need to worry." Ian asks, and Heeju says, "What more do you need?" Outside, we see Irene's spy, Iram, trying to overhear their conversation. Just then, Choi arrives, so she tells him she brought some food for the Grand Prince. Choi tells her to leave and takes the food inside. Ian tells him to put it away and leave. The next day, Heeju comes to the office, very happy. Haejung asks her what happened yesterday. Did Grand Prince Ian say yes? At this, Heeju says, "No. He rejected me." Then we see a flashback where Ian tells her, "There is something I value more than money, intelligence, and beauty." Heeju asks what that is. Ian says, "That's love. I want to marry for love." Back to the present, Haejung says, "Grand Prince seems quite romantic." Heeju says, "Romantic? My foot." On the other side, we see Choi talking to Ian. Choi says, "You could have rejected her directly. Why did you say such things?" Ian just smiles hearing this. Meanwhile, Haejung asks Heeju, "Then shall I find a new profile?" But Heeju refuses. Haejung asks, "Will you try again? You weren't even serious about this proposal." Heeju says, "Why do you think so that I'm not serious?" Haejung says, "If you were, you wouldn't have told the Grand Prince that you have money, power, and a stupid brother. You even talked about divorce in your very first meeting." Heeju explains that she did this intentionally because she's sure the Grand Prince will like a girl similar to him, someone a bit different and rebellious, like Grand Prince Ian himself. So Heeju meets her PR manager, who has connections with many people in the royal palace. She asks him to do some work. The manager uses all his connections to find out all of Grand Prince Ian's schedules. He makes a list of all those places and gets it to Heeju via Haejung. In the next scene, Heeju goes to a horse riding field where Ian is already riding a horse. Ian is quite surprised to see her here. As soon as she arrives, Heeju starts flirting with him, saying, "And it's only been 2 days since we met, but I missed you a lot. Anyway, don't you ride at the royal grounds?" Ian says he feels a bit suffocated there. Heeju teases him, saying, "You might feel suffocated here too, with me," smiles, and walks ahead. The next day, Ian is eating alone at a restaurant. Just then, Heeju arrives there. He is surprised to see her here as well. Heeju winks and says, "Saw you just yesterday, but still missed you a lot." Then she sits next to him. Ian gets up to leave. Seeing this, Heeju asks, "Are you going to volunteer at a cat shelter?" Hearing this, Ian asks, "Did you check my background?" Heeju says, "Yes, I did. You said you want to marry for love. So I needed to win your heart." But it doesn't end there. In the next scene, Ian is in his car. Heeju pulls up next to him and says, "I missed you." Ian says nothing and drives away. Next, he comes to watch a movie. Heeju shows up there again, saying, "I missed you." When he goes running, Heeju follows him there too. Ian is starting to like it a little bit because the next day, when he's going somewhere, he seems very conscious of his dress. He even asks Choi, "She keeps showing up everywhere. I should look good every moment." Meanwhile, Heeju is at her company. Gaeon calls her and tells her, "You have a blind date today. You have to go. If you don't, Father will kill us both, and your castle beauty company might be shut down. I'm sending the guy's name and location." So Heeju looks at the name, Yeonjun, and calls him. In the next scene, they both meet at the Royal Art Gallery. Yeonjun says, "I've heard a lot about you from your father. Like you love art a lot, so you also run an arts foundation." To get rid of him, Heeju says, "It's nothing like that. That's just for money laundering." Hearing this, Yeonjun falls silent. Then Heeju asks, "So tell me, when should we get married?" Yeonjun is shocked, so Heeju says, "This is an arranged marriage. What is there to know? Besides, I know you're part of my father's plan." Yeonjun asks how. Heeju says, "My father is trying to throw me out of the company. If I marry into a powerful family, he won't be able to do that because he knows the first thing I'll do is throw my useless brother out of the company. I just need a partner so I can reach the top and defeat him. Can you do that?" Just then, Choi arrives there and meets Haeju. She waves goodbye to him. Then she turns to Yeonjun, but Yeonjun himself backs out of the marriage. Later, Choi tells Ian today I saw Miss Hyeju with a guy. After being rejected by you, she immediately found another guy. Ian doesn't like hearing this. Choi then says, I thought maybe the Queen Mother had sent Hyeju. On this, Ian says, that can't be. My sister-in-law's family has produced 4 queens. They have a huge superiority complex, so they would never associate with Hyeju, a commoner. Choi then asks, who do you think will win between the two of them? I found out a little about Miss Hyeju. She has no friend, only her secretary who goes everywhere with her, but I've heard she's been hot-headed since school days. There's no one she hasn't fought with. This was true, so Ian smiles because he has seen it himself. On the other side, Irene is in her room. She recalls a past scene when her husband, the king, wanted to abdicate his throne. He had even written a letter for it, but the Queen Mother was very angry. She says, you cannot do this. Think of the crown prince. The king, without listening to her, stamps the decree abdicating the throne. Enraged, the Queen Mother burns the letter and says, then I would prefer to see you dead. Saying this, she throws the burning letter in front of him and leaves. In the next scene, we see the palace on fire, and the king has died. His body is brought out. Ian arrives, sees his brother, and asks, where is my nephew, the heir to the throne? Since then, Ian has had nightmares, where he dreams of his brother's death. Ian wakes up from the same nightmare. He's not feeling well, so Choi brings him some medicine. On the other side, King Yoon has to attend an award ceremony called Flower of Honor. Since Ian is on leave, he has to go alone. The Queen Mother tells her son, show Ian that you can do a lot even without him. The boy agrees, but he is very nervous. After all, he is just a child. Meanwhile, Choi tells Ian, you don't look well. Are you okay? He then talks about award ceremony. Don't worry, everything will be fine. But Ian says, he's my nephew. I know how he'll do. Just then, he gets a call. Then we see Hyeju is also going to the event and getting ready. Haejong is on the phone telling her what to wear. Wear something simple and go. In the next scene, Hyeju arrives at the event with Haejong, but they go through security check. Hyeju says, it's an award ceremony, and I'm a winner. We still get security checked. Haejong says, speak softly. The media is here. Meanwhile, King Yoon is sitting in a room, very nervous. On top of that, his security guards are eating the snack packs kept for the king. They even come and sit by his side, getting in his way. Just then, Ian arrives and scolds all of them properly. The king is very happy to see him here. We learn that he had called Ian out of nervousness. Ian encourages him and says he will be with him every moment, so he doesn't need to be nervous at all. Then as soon as the door opens, they are about to go to the event. King Yoon gets scared seeing all the camera flashes, but Ian holds his hand and brings him onto the stage, where the award distribution begins one by one. Hyeju receives the Best Entrepreneur Award. The king pins the Flower of Honor on her. Ian gives her a bouquet. Hyeju tells him again, I missed you. Hearing this, Ian blushes but controls his expression. Then it's time for photos, so everyone looks ahead. Ian, however, looks at Hyeju and smiles. After the event, Hyeju takes many photos and posts them, using the hashtag Grand Prince Ian. Next, we see Jung-ho in his office. His secretary gives him an update on the event. When Jung-ho finds out about Hyeju getting an award, he heads to the venue to congratulate her. Meanwhile, Ian sends the king back to the palace. Ian himself isn't feeling well, so he stays back at the hotel. Hyeju is also staying at this hotel. Just then, Jung-ho arrives and they both go for lunch to celebrate. Jung-ho congratulates her on the award. He tells her take off the hat. Hyeju asks, what's wrong? Don't I look good? Jung-ho says, it's not that, but everyone is staring at us and it's very embarrassing. So Hyeju eventually takes it off. Then they start talking about their school days. I see a flashback where Hyeju is training Jung-ho. She comes close to him and explains how to shoot an arrow. But Jung-ho is just looking at her. And at that moment, he falls in love with her. But Hyeju tells him to focus. From this, we learn that Jung-ho likes Hyeju, not just now, but since school days, though he never told her. On the other side, Ian's condition worsens. Choi returns to the hotel with some medicines and says, you should go to a royal hospital. But Ian says, I can't. Most of the people there are Irene's relatives. She'll find out what's happening to me. Later, Hyeju runs into Choi in the lobby. In the next scene, Hyeju calls a trusted doctor of hers, who checks Ian and prescribes medicines. Choi tells the doctor about Ian's insomnia. When the doctor is leaving, Hyeju tells him, add my name as the patient, not Ian's. I don't want anyone outside to know about this. The doctor agrees and leaves. Meanwhile, Irene is looking at event photos. She shouts at her son, I told you that you had to do this without him. Why did you go with him? A court lady later tells her he's just a child. You shouldn't say such things. But Irene sees her husband and her son because King Yoon seems just as timid as his father. She then asks the court lady, have you found out where Ian is? She nods. At the hotel, Hyeju brings sandwiches and shares them with Choi. Choi shares how scared he was when Grand Prince Ian suddenly fainted. Hyeju asks why he didn't tell anyone. Choi explains, Ian avoids attention. If the palace finds out he has a fever, everyone will start serving him. All sorts of doctors will be called. All sorts of rumors will spread. That's why he is avoiding all that. They're still talking when Choi learns from a text that the Queen Mother is coming to their room. Choi tells Hae-ju to hide quickly and then opens the door for the Queen Mother. She goes straight into Ian's room. Ian comes out of his bathroom. He tells Choi to tell her to wait outside because he's not properly dressed. Hearing this, she is about to leave, but then her eyes fall on a Hee-yu's purse kept on the sofa. Seeing this, she angrily enters Ian's room again, where she sees Ian talking to Hee-ju. Furious, she tells Ian, "Come to the palace tomorrow and explain yourself." Saying this, she leaves. The next morning, Hee-ju is asleep at the hotel. Hae-jong calls her and asks, "Are you still at that hotel? Stay there. I'm coming to you." On social media, news channels everywhere, articles were being published about Ian and Hee-yu's relationship. Photos of them outside the same hotel were going viral. Hee-ju is laughing reading all this, amazed at what people write. But Hae-jong is frustrated and doesn't know what to do. Hee-ju tells her to calm down because no one will believe it. Hae-jong says, "Why won't they believe it? Everyone has evidence. Look at these photos. The public is even saying you might be pregnant because a doctor was at the hotel." Hearing all this, Hee-ju starts laughing. Hee-jong shouts at her, and she goes quiet. But then Hee-ju mentions pregnant again and starts laughing. The Queen Mother, meanwhile, is happy seeing all this because now everyone will criticize Ian for getting involved in such a scandal. On the other side, Ian comes out of the hotel and sits in the car. Choi tries to take Ian to the royal palace, but Ian says to go to his private residence instead and also asks him to call Hee-ju. In the next scene, Hee-ju arrives to meet Ian. Everyone welcomes her and brings her inside. Hee-ju then goes alone to talk to Ian. There, Ian apologizes to her for getting her caught up in this scandal and asks, "Tell me what you want. I will fulfill it." Hee-ju says, "Really? You already know." Then she shows some flowers and says, "These are the flowers I got when I defeated you." Then we see a flashback of the 64th archery competition. Ian shoots the last arrow, scores 7 points, and loses the game. Hee-ju says, "You lost on purpose that day." Then she tells him about her brother's foolishness, how he got expelled from schools and how many companies he ruined. But her father is desperate to let him run Castle Group. "Why do you think this is happening to me? Because he's a boy? Or because he's the legitimate son? Now I understand why. Because he married into a noble family." Ian says, "So you just want to marry me for my title?" Hee-ju says, "Yes, because I have lost countless opportunities due to not having this title." On this, Ian says, "Then get ready to become the Grand Prince's wife, because now you will have to face the entire country." Hearing this, Hae-ju smiled. In the next scene, Ian brings Hee-ju to the royal palace. The media is already standing outside. Ian holds Hee-ju's hand and she comes outside. Hee-ju recalls the scene when Ian says, "First, let's see what you can do." Ian tells her to change the public's opinion that has formed because of this incident. Since the palace won't say anything to resolve the matter, Hee-ju laughs and says, "You really scared me, but this seems quite easy." Then Hee-ju puts her PR team to work. Her team spreads the news everywhere about what is going on between Hee-ju and Ian. Everyone is shocked to see this news. Meanwhile, Ian and Hee-ju enters the palace. As they enter the palace, a court lady is there who tells Ian that the Queen Mother wants to meet him. So Ian asks Hee-ju to rest for a while. Hee-ju asks, "Will I have to stay here alone?" Ian lovingly fixes her hair and says, "Are you scared? Don't worry, go to my room and rest. I'll come soon." Saying this, he leaves. Later, Ian goes to meet Irene. She says, "After everything that happened at the hotel, aren't you going to apologize?" Ian says, "What apology? I am making all these things real." Hearing this, Irene gets angry. Ian says, "Don't worry, I'm not going to make the pregnancy news real." Saying this, he comes out. Choi is there. Ian asks him, "What are you doing here? You should have stayed with her." Then we see Hee-ju with the king. She is feeding him instant noodles. Just then, Ian arrives. He asks the king, "Why are you eating this?" Hee-ju is about to answer, but Ian says, "I didn't ask you. I asked the king." The king says he couldn't sleep, but Hee-ju said a full stomach helps with sleep. Ian looks at Hee-ju, but she says nothing. He calls a court lady to escort the king to his room. Hee-ju tells Ian it was just instant noodles. You could have given it to him. He was hungry. But Ian says, if his stomach gets upset, the blame will fall on you, and the Queen Mother will be angry. He adds, "The Queen Mother will never agree to our marriage." Hee-ju replies, "I expected this, but it feels as if my in-laws are bullying me." Then she thinks for a moment and asks, "But whose side will you take if we ever fought? Mine or Irene's?" He doesn't answer at first. Hee-ju forces him to tell her. Finally, he says, "I will take your side." Then he comes closer and says, "To convince the public that we love each other so much, I will have to do many things." Ian then also gives her his royal ID tag to reach him in an emergency. In the next scene, he argues with the court lady. The court lady says it's impossible. She cannot sleep with you. But Ian says the main door is already closed. She has to stay here, and she will sleep with me. Hee-ju also tells them in a cute voice that she needs to change her clothes. At night, they are both on Ian's bed. Ian tells her to sleep on the sofa, but Hee-ju refuses and says, "You sleep there." They are both under the same blanket. When Hee-ju refuses to get up, Ian starts pulling the blanket towards himself, leading to a tug of war. The court ladies outside misunderstand the noises. The next morning, we see Ian sleeping alone. Choi wakes him up and asks if he knows what time it is. Ian sees that Hee-ju isn't there, so Choi tells him that she has already gone to her office. Next, we see Hee-ju coming to her office, deliberately wearing the same dress from last night. Hae-jong asks her why she didn't change her outfit. Hee-ju says the public should know that she was with him last night. In the next scene, we see Sang-woo coming to meet the king. The king tells his grandfather he didn't sleep well. Sang-woo asks if he had the dream about his father again. The king says yes. Sang-woo then remembers a scene from a few years ago. Ian's older brother, Evan, was about to get married but was very scared. Sang-woo says, "Don't worry, I am with you." Just then, Ian comes there shouting. Sang-woo tries to stop him, but Ian, ignoring him, grabs Evans's collar and says, "I gave you a chance, but you didn't listen to me. Now, whatever happens next, you have to handle it yourself." Back to the present, Sang-woo tells the king, "Don't worry, I will always be with you." Then we see Hee-ju at her office. She is reading hate comments about herself regarding her relationship with Ian, but Hee-ju mimics them and laughs. Just then, Jung-ho arrives there. He asks, "Do you really want to marry Ian?" Hee-ju says yes, and as the prime minister of the royal cabinet, he must approve their marriage. Hearing this, Jung-ho says nothing. Meanwhile, Choi comes to Ian and tells him what happened with Irene. She suddenly fell ill. He thinks it must be a trick, because when a royal is sick, no celebrations happen, nor any official statements until they recover. Then, he gets a call from Hee-ju, who is talking about articles written about them. Suddenly, some crazy fangirls throw eggs at her, shouting that she can't be with Ian and that she has seduced him. Ian hears everything on the phone, but Hee-ju hangs up. Choi brings many files to Ian, saying this work belongs to the king, and Ian has to do all of Irene's work as well. On the other side, Hee-ju scolds the girls and tries to reason with them. The girls immediately apologize to her and leave. In the next scene, Jung-ho comes to church to pray and tells the priest he prayed for something wrong for someone because he doesn't want something to happen, meaning he doesn't want Hee-ju to marry Ian. A short flashback shows their school days. Hee-ju was stealing the key to the archery ground from Min-soo's desk, and Jung-ho saw her and even saved her from a teacher. Meanwhile, Hee-ju arrives at her apartment and sees her father standing outside. Hee-ju wants to tell him about the scandal, but Hanguk says, "Never mind, I already know. Why did you do it? For attention?" He also reminds her that death anniversary of Minjin's mother is coming soon, so she must know about that. Later, Hee-ju recalls a scene from the past. A maid brings her inside the house. Her father is there with his wife and Minjin. The maid tells them that she has been standing outside for a long time and isn't speaking. Mrs. Song lovingly asks her what her name is. Hee-ju nervously reveals that Mr. Song is her father. Upon learning of her husband's extramarital affair and illegitimate child, Minjun's mother goes into shock and dies. This is why Hee-ju's father never liked her. He let her live in the house, but never cared for her. If she asked for anything equal to Minjun, he'd call her greedy and send her away. Despite all this, Hee-ju never let it affect her negatively. She worked hard and made her company reach the top, multiplying the Castle Group's evaluation many times. Yet, Mr. Song never even included Hee-ju's name in his will. In the present, her father tells her to stay away from the company. Hee-ju asks what he'll do if she doesn't. He says he will disown her, but Hee-ju says, "Try it. But no matter how hard you try, you can never defeat." In the next scene, Hee-ju is very sad, but when Ian calls her, she immediately changes her tone, apologizing for hanging up earlier. Ian asks, "Are you okay?" Hearing this, she gets a little emotional and says she is busy and will talk later. Ian gets worried, thinking something is wrong. In the next scene, someone rings Hee-ju's doorbell insistently. Annoyed, she picks up a baseball bat and opens the door. She is shocked to see Ian there. She asks him what he is doing there at this time. Ian comes inside. He brought her food. She asks if he picked the combo himself. Then we see a flashback when Ian stopped at a convenience store and saw burgers called the Song. Hee-ju combo. They both laugh because that's what she bought the night their scandal went viral. The shop owners named it after her. Later, Hee-ju asks him why he came. Ian says when they talked on the phone earlier, he thought she was feeling down, so he came. Hee-ju says her day was very bad. His fans threw eggs at her. Her father rejected her. She got a bit sad because of all that, but she is fine. Ian asks if she's in pain or hurt anywhere else, but Hee-ju just looks at him. Next we see the Queen Mother is looking at photos and CCTV footage from the king's birthday night. She finds a photo of Hee-ju going into a restricted area. She calls her royal security and orders an investigation. On the other side, Ian brings Hee-ju to his private residence and announces she will be staying for a while. Hee-ju pretends to get very close to Ian in front of them. Ian tells his staff to take care of her. The butler, Manager Young, brings Hee-ju to her room. He tells her who he is and how she can address him. After he leaves, Ian calls Hee-ju and asks if she likes the room. Hee-ju says yes. It feels like she's on the set of a historical drama. She asks why he's still awake. Ian says he's working, so Hee-ju says she'll come help him. In the next scene, Hee-ju is with Ian. Hee-ju asks, "Will I really be staying here with you?" Ian says yes, but Hee-ju says, "I am an independent woman, so it feels a bit strange, and my office is far away." Ian says it would be strange if you left her there to face coming trouble. As she is about to say something, Ian asks if she came to help or not. Hee-ju says she knows nothing about royal ancestral rights. So Ian says, "Okay, what do you want to ask?" Hee-ju asks, "Tell me why you want to marry me." Ian says, "First, because you have money. Second, because you are pretty." Hee-ju says, "You're just repeating what I said." Then he gives a third reason. "When I sit on the throne, everyone will be against me, but I am sure you will understand me." Hearing this, Hee-ju keeps looking at him. The next day, Ian is away performing ancestral rites with other royal members. The Queen Mother takes the opportunity to send royal security to Ian's residence to interrogate Hee-ju and bring her in. Hee-ju is sleeping. Manager Young wakes her up. The royal security sees everything in her room. Hee-ju asks why they are restraining her. Do they have a warrant? The chief says they don't need one. He shows the footage from the king's birthday night where Hee-ju had come for the network. He tells her she was in the restricted area at that time and they suspect she started a fire there. Hee-ju says she lost her way, but that doesn't mean she set the fire. The chief says she has to come with them for questioning. He reminds her that she once publicly said taxpayer money is wasted on the royal family and that someone should overthrow the monarch. As for the warrant, under the Royalty and Specialist Protection Act, they can arrest anyone who poses a threat to the royal family without a warrant. Meanwhile, royal guards also reach Hee-ju's office and seize her things there. Hee-ju tries to call Ian, but Manager Young explains that during ancestral rites, everyone's phones are kept outside. So Hee-ju calls Hae-jong and tells her to go to Ian. She also gives Manager Young Ian's royal ID tag to deliver the news. Since Hae-jong is a civilian, she isn't allowed inside, so she sends Manager Young with the ID tag. However, in the next scene, Hee-ju gets ready, goes to the men, and says, "Okay, I will come with you." On the other side, Hae-jong reaches the ancestral rites location but isn't allowed inside. Then Manager Young arrives with the royal ID tag and they both enter. But the rites are still ongoing, so they can't call Ian. However, Choi is there. So in the next scene, she changes her dress and goes to Choi and tells him everything. On the other side, Hee-ju is brought to the palace. Just then, Ian arrives there. He asks the chief how he can be here without the king's or his permission. Just then, Irene arrives and says she gave the permission. She says they suspect Hee-ju started the fire. Ian asks if there is any evidence against Hee-ju. Irene says that on the king's birthday, Hee-ju wore a red dress, which was an insult to the king. While everyone was drinking, she broke her glass, threatened girls, and at the time of the fire incident, she was in the restricted area. Ian says that's not evident. The Queen Mother says it's enough to ruin Hee-ju and her company's reputation. Ian says he should be questioned too, as any reason she suspects Hee-ju would apply to him as well. As the atmosphere heats up, Choi signals Hae-jong to step on Hee-ju's foot. Hae-jong does so, and Hee-ju falls. Ian immediately carries her in his arm. Hee-ju pretends to faint. Ian tells them they can come to his office whenever they want to question her, and takes Hee-ju to his room at the royal palace. Hee-ju is still pretending to be unconscious. Ian tells her to get up and asks how she agreed to come here. Hee-ju says they threatened her and brought her. She asks if she'll have to go to jail now. Ian asks if she's scared. Hee-ju says she is Song Hee-ju of Castle Group. Raids and seizures are common for her. Her company gets raided once or twice a year. She's just thinking which law firm to choose to defend her. Ian says, "Don't worry, the Queen Mother can't harm her directly now because she'd have to face him." Hee-ju then says, "Anyway, that scene was amazing. You even took my side there." She jokes about the hot gossip that must be spreading. Ian says the palace staff don't gossip like that, but Hee-ju says he probably doesn't know. But by now, all the people there would have told every palace staff member. And indeed, it had happened. All the maids, guards, everyone had heard how Grand Prince Ian went against the Queen Mother, took Heeju's side, carried her when she fainted, and took her away. They must love each other so much. The Queen Mother is also very angry at Ian's behavior. In the evening, Ian comes to send Heeju to his private residence. Heeju asks if he's not coming home. Ian says, I have a lot of pending work. If I leave without finishing, Choi will kill me. Ian then opens the door for her. Everyone is shocked to see this. Ian says, the more people who see, the better. Heeju says, okay then, and leaves. In the next scene, Heeju arrives at the private residence, and everyone welcomes her with applause. Heeju gives a special thanks to Manager Young. At night, Heeju smiles thinking about Ian. Ian calls her. She says she didn't eat, so she's very hungry. Ian asks if she didn't like the food. Heeju says no, she's just trying to lose weight. Ian says royal guards will be with her for security from tomorrow. Heeju says, how is that possible? We aren't married yet. I'll come to meet you now. In the next scene, Heeju takes her car and goes straight to the royal palace. She parks by the back wall and calls Ian. Soon, Ian climbs over a wall and says, I never thought I'd do this. Heeju also climbs onto a bench on her side. She then gives him tea and various supplements, saying she uses them when she can't sleep, and tells him to drink it without wasting it because it's expensive. Ian keeps looking at her. Heeju then asks, don't you think I'll make a very supportive wife? Ian looks at her, touches her face, and says, just stand still. Then he comes close to her and kisses her. After the kiss, Heeju is shocked. Ian explains that there is a reporter nearby who is taking our photo, which is why he did that. Heeju says, okay, so should we try again so they can get a good angle of us? Hearing this, Ian starts laughing and watches her with love in his eyes. The next morning, Ian is leaving for a meeting. Everyone is talking about their kiss from the previous night because it has already appeared in articles. Then, in the meeting, Ian says in front of all his ministers that they must now issue an official statement. One minister says this is not right, that it's about his honor. Ian says, are you perhaps hoping that I'll deny all this? That won't happen. Then Sang-woo says, I found out that Heeju is illegitimate, but Jang-ho supports Ian and says, can you tell the public that we have just started dating? Although we are not sure about marriage yet. Ian says, okay, he will do that. Ian also adds that Heeju will stay in his private residence. Although Sang-woo forbids this, Jung-ho says it's fine, but Ian cannot stay there with her. He must live in the palace to prevent any further rumors. With that, Ian's official statement is released. Meanwhile, the Queen Mother is very angry, but her father, Sang-woo, reassures her that he will handle everything because there will be no shortage of noble families wanting to make the Grand Prince their son-in-law. And in the business world, many people will be found to put Heeju in her place. The official statement is also broadcast on news channel. Ian and Heeju are currently just in the dating phase. No marriage talks have been confirmed. Heeju and everyone else see this on TV. Then Ian arrives and Heeju goes to talk to him. Looking at the newspaper photo of their kiss, she says, I knew this would happen. That's why I said, let's try again. This angle wasn't right. She suggests they need to be a bit sexier and shameless so the public takes them seriously. As she is saying this, Ian remembers their kiss while looking at her lips. Just then, Heeju holds his face and says, the sooner we get married, the sooner we can get divorced. Then she asks, you have time right now? Ian says he has a little time, but for what? Heeju says she needs to take him somewhere to speed things up. In the next scene, Heeju gets ready and comes out, but Ian looks at her and says she doesn't look right. So Heeju runs back inside to change her clothes and comes out in simple clothes with her hair messy. Ian says it's fine now and tells her to hold his arm, which she does, and they both go out together. In the car, Choi says this dress looks quite plain. Heeju assumes he is talking about Ian's dress, so she says, yes, you're right. This suit looks quite dull and old school. But Choi says he was talking about her, not him. Heeju says that can't be possible. Takes the mirror from Ian and starts looking at her own face. Then she says, I am dazzling. Seeing this, Ian secretly starts laughing at her. In the next scene, they go to watch a baseball match. Heeju arrives wearing a Sharks team jersey and brings one for Ian as well, thinking they will look good in matching jersey. But Choi says the Grand Prince cannot wear this jersey because he cannot show support for any particular team. Heeju gets a bit upset and tells Choi to wear it instead, but Ian takes the jersey and keeps it with himself. At the stadium, Heeju runs into her brother and sister-in-law, who immediately act very innocent upon seeing Ian and introduce themselves. Ian says Heju has talked a lot about him. Minjun wonders what she might have said, but Ian says nothing. Just then, the match is about to start and Jung Hao is there to make the first throw. Heju cheers for him loudly, which makes Ian quite jealous. Afterwards, Jung Ho comes to sit beside Heju and Ian. Later, the camera focuses on the couple. Seeing them, everyone in the stadium starts shouting, "Kiss! Kiss!" Then Ian whispers to Heju, "Should we speed things up? Be sexy and shameless?" Now that they are in front of everyone, Heju types something on her phone which says, "Grand Prince Ian must maintain his dignity." Seeing this, Ian starts laughing. When it's time for them to leave, Heju thinks her picture will be taken, but it doesn't happen because Ian's bodyguards put up umbrellas all around. Heju keeps ducking and hopping to show herself, but Choi keeps putting his umbrella up to block her. Just then, Jung Ho talks to Heju and reminds her that last time she said the treat would be on her. He suggests they go eat together. Hearing this, Ian gets very angry and even more jealous. Heju agrees and tells Ian to go alone as they are going for dinner. But Ian says he will also come with them. "We came together, and it won't look good if I return alone." Saying this, he opens the car door for Heju. After seating Heju in the car, Ian goes to Jung Ho and says, "Don't you have much work at the office today?" Then he gets into his own car. In the next scene, they arrive at a restaurant. Heju tells Ian to start eating first, but Jung Ho says Ian cannot eat anything because he can't eat raw food. Hearing this, Heju is shocked. Jung Ho says, "That's why you shouldn't marry the Grand Prince, because after that, you'll have to follow all this too." Heju then asks what other restrictions there are. What else is she not allowed to do? This reminds Ian of a flashback from his childhood where he was playing with his brother, Evan. Ian asked his brother, "Can I wear your dragon robe?" His brother happily took off the dragon robe, put it on Ian, and complimented him, saying he looked great in it. Just then his father arrived, and as soon as he saw them, he pulled Ian and slapped him for wearing the crown prince's clothes. At that very moment, he warned Ian that he would never wear red clothes because only the crown prince can wear red. Coming back to the present, Ian serves food to Heju and says she can eat it before marriage but not after, so she should eat it now. Then Ian returns to the royal palace where court lady Suki scolds him for going to a raw food restaurant without security. Ian says, "Don't worry, I didn't eat anything and there was no problem with security." Suki then says, "But Miss Haiju knows nothing about these things." Ian replies, "Because she doesn't need to do any of this. She hasn't become a member of the royal family yet." Court lady Suki says, "But she lives with you, so her mistakes will also be considered yours. Therefore, she must learn how a royal lady talks, behaves, lives, everything. Please allow me to teach her everything." Ian cannot directly refuse her, so he agrees. The next day, Heju is leaving for the office when she sees court lady Suki outside, who has come to teach her everything. But at the last moment, Ian calls her, makes an excuse about important work, and helps her get away. Later, Ian tells her, "You should be careful around her because she has come to give you royal lessons." Heju says, "Don't worry, I'll handle them." Hearing this, Ian smiles. Seeing this, Choi says, "Were you two really not close during school? You both look very cute together." Ian feels very good hearing this. Meanwhile, Haejong tells Heju her schedule for the day. Then, she mentions the kiss and says Heju's cheeks are red, but Heju denies it, asking why she would be shy. It was just a simple kiss. Haejong later tells her that Ian has never dated anyone, and not a single rumor about him has ever appeared. Heju becomes quiet upon hearing that he has never dated anyone. Haejong then tells her to get ready quickly as they need to go to the tailor shop for her outfit. On the other hand, Gyeong and Minjin are talking about an upcoming event. Only Heju has been invited to the event. Gyeong says even her father, the former prime minister, wasn't invited. See how big Heju has become? We need to get her married to Ian because after marriage, royal ladies are not permitted to do business outside. So she will have to leave Castle Group and it will be yours forever. Minjun gets happy hearing this and agrees. Then Heju comes to get her new dresses. Her secretary asks about her red car. Heju tells her it's in servicing. It will come tomorrow. After shopping, Heju arrives at Ian's private residence where court lady Suki has been waiting for her. As soon as she arrives, Suki tells her to come inside. Then she starts Haiju's royal class. She begins with her body posture, then tells Haiju to walk, which she does so. Meanwhile, we see Irene with her son Yoon, who is holding his neck down. Irene shouts that he should always hold his head up high. On the other side, Heju starts making court lady Suki exercise instead. Just then, Ian comes to meet her. Seeing him, Heju shouts his name, runs and hugs him. She pleads, "Please take them away from here right now, or they'll keep fixing my body posture all night." Ian laughs and agrees. Suki asks Ian what he is doing there. He should return to the royal palace because it's almost time for the gates to close. Ian says, "Okay, but you must come with me as well, because your duty is to take care of my office in the royal palace, not to discipline her, and this is my order." Hee-ju is very happy to hear this. The next day, Court Lady Suki arrives again with a royal family history lesson, telling Hee-ju about royal ancestor rites. Suki tells her about the first ritual they performed when Ian's mother died. The second ritual was performed when Ian's father died, and later, his brother died. Hearing all this, Hee-ju starts fake crying and says she wants to stay in her room for a while. Saying this, she runs to her room. In her room, she reads about the deaths of all of Ian's family members. She learns that Ian's mother died in a car accident, his father died of a heart attack, and his older brother died in a fire. Seeing all this, she genuinely feels terrible for Ian, so she calls him. But Ian doesn't pick up because he is meeting the Queen Mother, who is actually introducing him to a girl named Ginny from a noble family, saying she is her closest friend. Ian already knows Irene's intention. He says, "You've been looking unwell for quite some time." He calls her court lady over and asks what is wrong with the Queen Mother, why she has been sick for so long. But she cannot answer. So Ian says, because the Queen Mother is so ill, until she recovers, no one other than the royal physicians shall meet her. Not the Junior King, not Mr. Sang-woo. Saying this is my order, he leaves. Ginny asks Irene what will happen now. Irene says not to worry, and he can't do anything. Meanwhile, Ian tells Choi to find out everything about Ginny. Choi tells him that Hee-ju has been calling him. So Ian calls Hee-ju and says, "I'm very busy, so say whatever you need to say quickly." Hee-ju says, "I wanted to say that I am with you. Husband and wife should stand together, right? So I will always be by your side." Saying that, she hangs up. Ian smiles and calls Choi, telling him that he will go to his private residence to meet Hee-ju tonight. Choi says it's not allowed. Junko has forbidden it, but Ian says it doesn't matter. He has to go. Next we see, King Yoon comes out of his school. A child accidentally bumps into him. The guards immediately rush to scold those children, but the king stops them, picks up the child's book, and hands it back. The child thanks him and leaves. Just then, Jung-ho arrives there and tells the king that he must take his history class today because he has some work on Sunday. The king sees other children running, playing, and having fun and says he wants to play like them. He asks Jung-ho for a request in place of today's history class. Meanwhile, at Ian's house, Hee-ju is being taught how to walk. Just then, Jung-ho arrives with the king because he wanted to play. Hee-ju asks what he has come for. Yeon says he wants to meet his uncle. Hee-ju asks if he has an appointment, but he refuses. Hee-ju says it's fine. Let's play a game. But she sets a condition. The loser has to fulfill one wish of the winner. The king agreed. Then a game is about to start. All the workers, along with Jung-ho, play the game. In the final round, Yoon wins. Yoon then reminds her, "You said if I won the game, you would fulfill my wish. Remember?" Hee-ju laughs and asks, "What do you want?" Later, he tells Hee-ju, "My wish is to sit in this red car, the one with the wings. There is only one such car in Korea, and I want to sit in it just once." But the court lady refuses because it is not an authorized vehicle. Hearing this, the Junior King starts crying and says, "Why can't I do all this, even though I am the king?" He lies down on the ground and starts crying, so they are forced to agree. Meanwhile, Ian also leaves in the car, coming to meet Hee-ju. On the other side, Hee-ju gets ready. The court lady says to keep the windows always closed so that the king is not seen by anyone. Keep the speed limit below 60. Her car will be ahead, and Jung-ho's car will be behind. Hee-ju agrees, and they all leave. On the road, the king says they're going very slowly, and it's no fun, so increase the speed a little. Hee-ju increases speed to bring it to 60, but then the speed keeps increasing because the car's brakes are not working. Within moments, the speed crosses 100. Jung-ho also sees the car speeding. He asks Hee-ju what happened. Hee-ju tells him the brakes are not working. There is a lot of traffic ahead, so she has to take the car at high speed to the other side. She carefully steers the car toward a bridge, where she scrapes the car along the bridge railing to reduce speed a little, but the car doesn't stop. Just then, another car tries to stop in front of Hee-ju's car, then overtakes and stops ahead. Hee-ju's car hits it, scraping it for a short distance before finally stop. Then we see Ian getting out of his car, bleeding from his forehead. He looks at Hee-ju, while Hee-ju is also looking at him. In the next scene, the Queen Mother gets news of the accident and immediately leaves to see her son. There, she meets Jung-ho and asks him how the king is and how the attack happened. Jung-ho says, "Don't worry. He's perfectly fine. He only got minor injuries." Then she goes to see her son. There, she asks Jung-ho about Ian. Jung-ho says he used all his strength to stop the car and got injured in his left shoulder. His surgery is currently underway. Just then, the head of security calls Jung-ho outside. He tells him that photos of the accident are spreading all over the internet. People have already identified the car as Heeju's because it is the only one of its kind in Korea. Jung-ho then asks about Heeju. The security head says she is unconscious, but she doesn't have any major injuries. The Queen Mother overhears all this. She comes and asks them what Heeju has to do with this. Was His Majesty the King in Heeju's car? She starts to leave in anger, but Jung-ho stops her. He says you shouldn't do anything right now. People already know it was Heeju's car that met with an accident. If they find out the king was in that car, and the Grand Prince caused the accident to save him, damaging so much infrastructure, think about whose name will be dragged into this. The king's. So, it's better not to do anything for now. Irene asks, "Are you doing all this to save that girl?" But Jung-ho says, "I'm protecting your son." Meanwhile, Ian's surgery is successful. The doctors say he will recover quickly. There is no major fracture. Heeju still hasn't regained consciousness, so Jung-ho increases security outside her room. In the next scene, Yoon goes to meet Heeju. He remembers the scene when they were both in the car, and she held his hand so he wouldn't be scared. He holds her hand. Heeju regains consciousness. As she wakes up, she immediately asks the king if he is okay. The king says, "Yes, I'm fine. All this happened because of me. I insisted we take the car." But Heeju says it wasn't your fault. Then she asks about Ian. The king tells her he had a shoulder injury, but he went into the operation theater without crying. In the next scene, Heeju bursts into Ian's room. Choi is there, standing beside Ian's bed. After asking about his condition, Heeju says, "What were you thinking? Why did you jump in front of my car like that?" Then she touches his face and says, "Your face is hurt. How will you go out now like this?" Ian reaches to touch the bandage on her forehead, but Heeju moves back. Ian says, "Come closer." She sits beside him. He touches her forehead. Heeju then says, "You are lucky this time. Promise me you won't do something like this again. Don't come to save me." Ian replies, "Then don't put yourself in such situations or I can't promise that." Heeju says, "Still, you shouldn't have done that. Otherwise, the public will think you've gone completely crazy in love with me." Hearing this, Ian smiles. Meanwhile, news about Heeju's accident airs, that she was overspeeding and breaking traffic rules, causing the Castle Group's share prices to drop. On the other side, Hee-jong comes to meet Heeju at the hospital, but the bodyguards don't let her in. She says she's Heeju's friend, but they still don't listen. Just then, Heeju comes out and saying she's with her, takes her inside. Hae-jong shows Heeju the falling stock prices. Seeing this, Heeju is shocked. Hae-jong asks how the accident happened, if she had been drinking, but Heeju denies it. She tells her that her car's brakes failed. Hearing this, Hae-jung says she will immediately issue a press release with the dashcam footage. But Heeju says they can't do that. She reveals that the king and Ian were with her, so they cannot make the investigation public. Hae-jung gets worried and says, "You should seriously reconsider this, because ever since you decided on it, something keeps going wrong with you." Heeju says, "Ian saved my life." Hae-jung replies, "You two are doing too much. You're going to get divorced after 3 years anyway." At that moment, Jung-ho overhears this from behind and asks what they are talking about. Later, Heeju explains to him, "It's a contract marriage. People marry for their own benefit. That's not a big deal. I have everything, but the one thing I don't have is status." On this, Jung-ho says, "If you're marrying him just for status, then marry me instead." Heeju is shocked hearing this. In the next scene, Heeju goes to meet Ian, but he is not there. Later, Heeju is in the car. She keeps calling Ian, but he doesn't answer. Heeju says, "He should have told me about his discharge." Hee-jong asks, "Didn't he talk to you? The last time I saw him was outside your room when you were talking with Prime Minister Jung-ho." Heeju realizes Ian might have overheard Jung-ho saying, "If you're getting married just for status, then marry me instead." Remembering this, Heeju screams. After this, Heeju goes to Ian's private residence, where her belongings are being loaded into her car. A staff member says, "His Highness has simply asked you to go home." Heeju calls Ian again, but he doesn't answer. As she is about to leave, his manager tells her that the Grand Prince also wants his royal ID tag back. She returns it and leaves. Next, we see Ian, who isn't picking up Heeju's calls. He remembers Jung-ho telling Heeju that instead of Ian, she should marry him. Then he gets a message from Heeju saying, "Whatever it is, say it to me directly." The next day, Heeju comes to the royal palace and meets Irene, who tells him, "It's good. I didn't need to teach you anything because royal things aren't understood by everyone." Saying this, she leaves. Heeju then goes to meet Ian. Heeju asks, "Why did you kick me out of your house? Was it because of the Queen Mother? Or because of Jung-ho? Did you overhear something? Ian pretends he doesn't know what she's talking about. Hee-ju asks, then why she was kicked out. Ian explains that someone tampered with your car brake. They are investigating, but I have decided to change the plan. Let's cancel the wedding. Hee-ju asks, did the Queen Mother tell you to say this because of the accident? I am a victim too here. Ian says exactly, which is why they shouldn't get married. If I marry a girl like you, who breaks rules and already has enemies, it could endanger the royal family. Hee-ju is hurt by his words but says nothing. Meanwhile, Min-jun is badmouthing Hee-ju to their father, Hang-ja, saying she must have been drunk or on drugs to drive so badly. Just then, Hee-ju arrives and silences him. Her father asks her to explain everything. Hee-ju says, explain what? What you see is what it is. But I wasn't drunk. Nor did I take drugs. And Jack asks then, why did the Grand Prince kick you out of his house? Hee-ju says that's a private matter. Min-jin points out how much Castle Group's share prices have fallen because of her scandal. Hee-ju says the share prices went up because of my relationship with Ian too. And once we have a press conference, the stock will go up. Her father starts yelling at her. She stops him and says, if you want to yell, do it over the phone. Don't waste my time by calling me here for nothing. Saying this, she leaves. Later, she calls Hae-jung and asks her to go to her car's service center to find out who last worked on her car. On the other side, Choi keeps pestering Ian, asking why he canceled the wedding. Ian finally reveals it's because he wants Hee-ju to stay alive. He recalls a scene from his childhood when he was returning to the palace with his mother. He was in a car behind hers with court lady Suki. He called his mother and asked if they could go back and get fried chicken. His mother agreed, but as she turned the car, a truck came and hit her car. Ian got out of the car and saw his mother, but she didn't survive. Choi says it wasn't his fault. It was just an accident. Ian also recalls talking to Jung-ho, who told him that someone tampered with Hee-ju's car, causing the brakes to fail. They are finding out who the target was, Hee-ju or the king. Jung-ho also says he can protect the king and Ian, but Ian must protect Hee-ju, and to do that, he must send Hee-ju away from the palace. Coming back to the present, Ian tells Choi to prepare a farewell gift for Hee-ju. Then we learn about an event at the palace called the Inner Court Banquet. Only women from royal and noble families attend, and it greatly enhances their reputation. He tells her this event is happening at the palace, and Ian has invited her. Hee-ju points out that only royal and noble women can attend this event, then why she is suddenly getting an invitation. Choi explains that the news of their breakup will be out soon. To ensure people don't assume the worst about the reason for the breakup, she has been invited. Ian had also brought her a dress, which was pink. Choi mentions the Queen Mother will be wearing white, so it would be good if Hee-ju wears this, but Hee-ju refuses, saying she won't come. Choi tries to convince her that this will give her many new opportunities, and confirm that her breakup with Grand Prince Ian wasn't on bad terms. Hae-jung asks, you used to like such events, didn't you? Hee-ju says that was before the wedding talk, but now, she won't go. Choi is about to say something, but Hee-ju doesn't listen and angrily dismisses him. Choi returns and tells all this to Ian. Ian then asks Choi to call Hee-ju to come to the palace, that he will convince her himself, but Hee-ju refuses. Later, Hee-ju receives several calls asking her to meet Ian, but she refuses each time. Ian asks what's wrong with her. Choi says, you dumped her, so will she welcome you with open arms? In the next scene, Hae-jung calls Hee-ju and says she went to the repair shop and the man who tampered with her car. The police investigated but didn't find him. He ran away. Hee-ju asks her to check the convenience store in front of the repair shop. He must have bought something there. Just then, she gets a message from Ian. The next day, Hee-ju goes to meet him. Ian asks her, why don't you want to come to the Inner Court Banquet? Hee-ju asks, why would I go there when I break every rule and have enemies at every step? First, you risked your life to save me, just to cancel our wedding. So why are you calling me to the Inner Court Banquet? Ian says I'm just trying to protect you. You're already facing attacks. After the news of our breakup comes out, things could get worse. That's why I want you to attend the banquet before that. Hee-ju calls him a coward. She stands up, takes a bow arrow kept behind her, and says, try to save your cat from me because I am going to attack her. Hearing this, Ian gets up and snatches the bow from her, hurting his hand in the process. Hee-ju holds his hand and says, this is how you protect someone, by fighting back. She takes off her scarf and ties it on his hand. Then she says, you have only learned to bend, which is why you lose even to those below you. Never bend to their wills. That way, you and I will get what we want. Meanwhile, Heeju's employees find the man from the convenience store's CCTV, and he even paid using a Castle Pay card. Because the Castle Pay falls under Minjeon's division, Heeju talks to him and asks for his help. She says the man in the footage he's watching wants to kill her, and she wants him to find out who it is. At night, Ian calls Heeju and says the invitation has already been given. She can't reject it now. She has to come to the event. Heeju then apologizes for hurting his hand today. Ian also apologizes to her for breaking his promise. The next day, Choi comes to meet Heeju and explains the rules and regulations of the banquet to her. A hierarchy is followed rank-wise. If someone of higher rank is walking ahead, you must always walk behind them. Hejong asks what Ms. Heju's rank will be, but Choi says she has no rank because she is neither from a noble family nor a public official. Hejong says, meaning Miss Heeju will be at the very back. Hearing this, Heeju starts laughing and says, I would be at the front of the line if I were married, right? At night, Ian calls her and asks to meet immediately. In the next scene, she comes to him. As she starts walking ahead, Ian follows her. Heeju then starts walking behind him. Ian asks what she is doing. Heeju says I'm practicing walking behind according to rank. Otherwise, I'm a trendsetter. Who knows when I might start leading everyone. The next morning at the palace, everyone is preparing for the event. Heeju is at her home, looking at the dress she has to wear for the event. She recalls a scene from last night. Ian asks her how you managed to lead in everything. I never learned that. Heeju says, you just have to stay by my side. I'll teach you. Meanwhile, Minjeon tells Gyeong that he found out who the man was who tried to kill his sister, but that man died yesterday. At the banquet, women are seated rank-wise. One seat is empty, Heeju's seat. They look at it and start gossiping, saying negative things about Heeju in the palace. Just then, Irene arrives and hears them. She looks at them, and they apologize. Just then, Heeju makes an entrance in a white dress, even though Choi had told her to avoid white. The Queen Mother asks if she was instructed to wear the traditional dress. Heeju says yes, but I found out it wasn't mandatory. Since the media is behind them, the Queen Mother laughs and says, no, not at all, but a silent rivalry begins in their eyes. After eating, everyone is on the palace grounds, walking in a line. Heeju is standing at the very back. Irene sees Heeju feeling hot, even though she has an umbrella, and suggests they go for another round. Just then, we see Grand Prince Ian arriving from the other side. He comes to Heeju and says, here I am by your side. Now teach me how to lead everyone. Heeju holds his arm and they both walk together through the crowd towards the front. Then we see a flashback from their high school days. Heeju is practicing and Ian is watching her secretly. But she had seen him. Ian hide quickly. She comes outside. Ian acts as if he's just arriving from outside. As she is leaving, Ian stops her and says, you did really well in the match. Heeju asks, do you want credit for it? Ian says I was just complimenting you. Can't you understand that? Heeju then starts to leave, but then comes back, bows her head formally in greeting, and leaves. Ian wanted to talk to her, but couldn't think of an excuse to stop her, so he goes back inside. Jung-ho is already there, looking at him. Ian asks him, when did you arrive? Jung-ho says I've been here since you were hiding and watching Heeju. Ian comes to him and asks, are you too close? What is she like? Jung-ho says, very beautiful. Ian says yes, she is, but Ian realizes Jung-ho likes her too. Meanwhile, we see Heeju getting ready. Ian is outside waiting for her, and he keeps calling her to come out. Heeju shouts back, telling him to be patient. When Ian calls again, Heeju starts to leave angrily, but Court Lady Suki and the others calm her down. Joy comes to Ian and asks what he is doing here, as it's time for the dance and Heeju isn't ready yet. Ian calls Heeju again, but this time, Heeju comes out, and seeing her, Ian's eyes widen in shock because she is looking absolutely gorgeous. Meanwhile, the king is also getting ready. A court lady tells him he didn't need to come. Yoon says he has to be there because his uncle insisted. The Queen Mother summons Prime Minister Jung-ho as her ball partner. Holding each other's hands, they both go downstairs together, and everyone greets them. Jinny comes and thanks the Queen Mother for inviting her. Later, Irene tells Jung-ho that she wants Jinny to be Ian's wife. Just as Jung-ho is about to say something, it is announced that Ian and Heeju have arrived. They make a royal entrance, both looking very good together. Then the dance begins, started by Ian and Heju. Watching them, the Queen Mother tells Jung-ho that Ian wanted to give Heju a breakup gift, which is why he invited her. Everyone watching them praises them. Ian looks around and tells Heju that everyone's eyes are on them. They start dancing closer. Heju says she knows, but this isn't enough. Ian says he knows, which is why he has prepared something more. After the dance ends, Ian drops to one knee, takes out a ring, and proposes to her. This is no ordinary ring, it's Ian's mother's ring. Seeing this, Irene is shocked because she never expected Ian to do something like this. Fireworks explode across the sky as Heju says yes, and Ian puts the ring on her finger. Ian holds Heju's hand and leads her to the king to receive his blessings. If the king gives his blessing, it acts as a royal command. If anyone opposes the marriage after the king's permission, it means they are against the king. However, Irene gestures to her son and tells him not to give his blessing, but he doesn't listen to his mother and says, "My blessings are with you. You both stay happy forever." They thank him. The media also covers all the news live. In the next scene, Jung-ho comes outside for some fresh air. Irene follows him and tells him to use his veto power, as only the prime minister can challenge the king's decision. But Jung-ho says he can't do that because the king and the ministry must be united. If their decisions start differing, questions will be raised about the king's capability. So, not stopping the marriage would be better for everyone. The queen mother is furious, but has to accept it. They both return to the party. Ian invites the queen mother to dance. She tells him, "I didn't expect you to deceive me. But what did you think? That I wouldn't do anything?" Ian replies, "Yes, you can't do anything. Or will you go against the king?" Then Ian tells her, "How did a wise person like you think it was right to change my brother's will?" Hearing this, Irene is left shocked because she thought no one knew about that will. But Ian knew all along. Ian tells her to smile because everyone is watching. On the other side, Heju comes to Jung-ho and asks him to dance, extending her hand. Jung-ho looks at her ring and remembers a past scene from their school days. It was the day of Heju's exam. Some boys were talking about how she hadn't arrived yet, speculating that she wouldn't top this time, or that someone might have locked her in a room, as she's always the first to school. Jung-ho hears this and runs to find her. He hears Heju's voice from a closed elevator and gets her out. Heju holds his hand and runs away with him. Jung-ho asks where he's taking her. Heju says the exam is about to start. If she says she was caught in an elevator, no one will believe her. But if he says it, everyone will believe him. Jung-ho agrees, then holds her hand and runs off with her. Back in the present, Jung-ho and Heju start dancing. Heju tells Jung-ho that he has to give permission for the wedding. If he doesn't support her, she have no one on her side. Then their partners are exchanged. Jung-ho keeps looking at Heju, which the queen mother notices. In the next scene, Heju and Ian are together. Heju is very happy looking at the queen's ring, which she had seen the queen wear since childhood. She asks if she can really take it, as it's his mother's ring. Ian says of course not, it's a national treasure. Return it after the divorce. Heju tells him to take it back then, but Ian tells her to keep it. His mother didn't like it anyway. Heju guesses he was his mother's favorite, since she gave him her ring. Ian says his father was very angry about that decision and never wanted to give him anything. Heju says their fathers were similar. She enjoys the cool breeze, and Ian just stares at her. He then fixes her hair with his hands, making her feel shy. At Ian's office, Choi and Hejong are sitting. Heju arrives and asks about the public reaction. Hejong says people are going crazy and shows several articles about Ian's proposal to Heju, making her very happy. She also shows her ring to Hejong, making Ian smile. On the other side, Minjin and Gaeong also see the news of the proposal and are very happy, as they will now count as part of the royal family, and Minjin will be the sole heir of the castle group. But Minjin feels uneasy thinking about the mechanic's death, feeling that something is wrong. Gong agrees that he has a point. Sangbu comes to meet Irene and says how she can allow this. Permission cannot be granted for Ian and Heju's wedding. But Irene says they can't do anything because Ian knows about the late king's will that they altered. However, she's sure Ian has no proof as the will burned completely in the fire, so he won't go against them. She has decided to accept the marriage, and she knows Heju will become Ian's greatest weakness, which they will exploit. In the next scene, Minjin and Gaeong are talking to Hangok. They show articles about how Ian proposed to Heju and how the king blessed them. Minjun then talks to his father about transferring Castle Beauty to his name, but his father asks Gaeong to call her father. They need to send someone to the palace so that Heju can trust at least one person. Later, Minjun and Gaeong come to Heju's company, where Gaeong keeps looking at her ring. Minjun talks about Castle Group, suggesting it would be good if someone from the family handled the company after her, since she's now part of the royal family and royals aren't allowed to work outside. Heju says she decide everything and asks about the information she requested. Minjun then tells her he found the person, but that person is dead. Heju shouts, asking how he could die, and says she should have killed him herself. In the next scene, Hee-ju is going to the palace for an interview with Hae-jung. She reads a question about what Ian's strength and weakness are. Hee-ju complains, asking what kind of question that is. They should ask where their first kiss happened, or who wins if they fight inside a room. Later, during the interview, she is asked how they first met. She says they studied in the same school long ago. Nothing was between them then, but there was a connection. She is asked what has changed about Grand Prince Ian since school days. Hee-ju says he has become very overprotective of her. She recalls a scene when Ian said he was doing everything to protect her. Hee-ju then laughs and keeps showing off her ring, and the interview ends playfully. Next we see Choi comes to Ian and says he should watch Hee-ju's interview. As he reads it, he smiles looking at her. Later, Hee-ju and Hae-jung returns to Ian's private residence. Everyone is happy and welcomes her. Hee-jung will now live with Hee-ju. Inside, Iram is with Hee-ju, setting up her things. Then Hee-jung arrives and tells Iram she can handle everything, so she can go outside. As she leaves, Hee-ju recalls a scene when Ian had asked Hee-ju to return. He reveals that Ilimi is a spy working in Ian's house, which they already knew. Choi tells Ian he had asked him many times to fire her, but Hae-jung says firing her is useless. Another spy will be sent. Hae-jung offered to stay with Hee-ju there, and Ian agreed. In the present, Ian calls Hae-ju and tells her to come to the palace tomorrow to discuss the wedding. Next, we see Hae-ju arriving at the palace, with Jung-ho accompanying her. A court lady announces Hae-ju's arrival, making Ian very happy. But then she announces the Prime Minister's arrival too, ruining his mood. Ian asks if they came together, but they deny it, saying they just met outside. Hearing this, Ian starts smiling. Outside, Choi comes to Hae-jung, wanting to flirt with her, but stops when court lady Suki appears. Inside, they are planning the wedding. Jung-ho says the wedding will be on the scale of a king's wedding because they need to show the public that the royal family is still strong. This also has huge economic benefits, as a royal wedding generates far more revenue than its cost. Eju asks how much revenue it will generate. As Jung-ho whispers the amount in her ear, Ian gets very jealous. Hearing the amount, Hee-ju is shocked and drops her teacup. As Ian is about to hand her a tissue, Jung-hwa gives her his handkerchief first. Ian tells Jung-ho to behave politely as Hee-ju will soon be his wife. But Hee-ju tells Ian that Jung-gu already knows everything about them, which Ian definitely does not like. Jung-go says, "Don't worry, I will help you both in every way until you get divorced." Hee-ju gets excited hearing this, and Ian looks at her in shock. Later, Ian is with Hee-ju. Hee-ju explains that she was talking to Hae-jung when Jung-ho overheard everything. But it's good, because he can help them now since he knows everything. Ian asks, how can you trust someone so easily? Hae-ju says, I've known him since childhood. We've been friends since then, so I trust him. Ian picks faults in Jung-ho. Iju replies, I trust him more than you, who backs down out of fear. Ian asks, what did you say? Iju says, I've been stopping myself from making a legal contract. Hearing this, Ian says, fine, let's make a legal contract. They sit down to list their conditions. Ian says they will divorce after 3 years, after which any real estate or assets gained due to royal status must be returned. Hee-ju agrees, but says she won't give up her title or rank, and all privileges that come with them will remain with her for life. Ian says she can keep them as long as she doesn't cause a public controversy or break any law. Ian also says all matters of the palace, as well as matters between them, will remain confidential. As they are talking, a court lady announces that the Queen Mother is coming. They quickly hide the contract and stand holding hands. Irene arrives, sees them, and Hee-ju pulls her hand away. She introduces herself. Irene says, since you will soon be family, I suggest that 3 of us have dinner together. Hee-ju agrees. Elsewhere, Hae-jung is with Choi at a restaurant. Choi asks if Miss Hee-ju will be okay, as the Queen Mother is quite intense. Hae-jung says, don't worry, Miss Hee-ju is more than a match for her. Choi says he thought they might actually fall in love, but Hae-jung says that can't happen because Miss Hee-ju likes trophymen, the one who comes when called, leaves when told, and always follows orders. So the chances of her falling in love are 0. Then he asks what her type is, what kind of guy she likes. Hae-jung is unable to answer and keeps looking at him. Meanwhile, the 3 are having dinner. Irene gives Hee-ju wine and starts telling many stories about Ian, that how much his father used to scold him, how he wrote so many apology letters they could fill a book. She recalls how much he used to scold Ian for getting in his older brother's way. She says he'd surely scold Ian today for getting in his nephew's way. Ian tells her she should stop, but she starts accusing him of killing her husband to take the throne. She says she knows he had a hand in his death and that he wants to kill his nephew to take the throne. She is deliberately provoking him, but Hyelju holds Ian's hand to calm him. The Queen Mother asks Hyelju if she knows why he was named Ian, so that he would never get in the king's way. Now Hyelju gets angry too. She stands up and tells Irene that the palace gates will close soon, so they are leaving. She takes Ian outside and says she is holding back because they are not married yet. Otherwise, she starts to say something against the Queen Mother, but Ian stops her. Hyelju says, "Let our wedding happen. Then I'll take care of anyone who gets in your way." Hearing this, Ian starts laughing and says that's why he doesn't want to sleep here tonight and suggests they go out. In the next scene, they are in a car. Hyelju asks if he should be driving at this hour, but Ian says he's already broken the rules by going out at night, and he likes driving. When he drives, he feels like he's flying. Hearing this, Hyelju asks if he really wants to fly. In the next scene, she takes him to a place with many yachts. Ian asks what this is, if she rented them, but Hyelju says everything is hers. Saying this, she runs inside and Ian also follows her. In the next scene, both are sitting inside. Ian isn't eating, so Hyelju force feeds him a strawberry. Ian says royals don't eat outside food. Hyelju says, no royal would marry a simple person, so why are you? No one is watching you here, it's just us. You can do anything you want. Hearing this, Ian starts eating the fruit. Both start smiling and eat happily. Then she takes him up to the yacht's bow. They go to the front. Hyelju stands with her arms outstretched, telling Ian to hold her tightly. She spreads her arms, and they both look very happy. Ian says she brought him here to fly, so he should come forward. As they try to change position, they both fall onto a bed below. Hyelju tries to get up, but Ian holds her tight, gets on top of her and says, "You said I could do anything." Then he moves closer and starts kissing her. After the kiss, Hyelju looks at him, then holds his neck and kisses him back. In the next scene, Ian returns to his private residence with Hyelju. It was very late, so everyone was worried about them. Manager Young comes to ask them where they were for so long, and that too, without the royal guards. But both of them were already feeling quite awkward because of what happened in the yacht. Miss Ming asks, "Did you two go somewhere nice?" They both say no at the same time. Then Hyelju handles the situation saying, "We needed some fresh air, so we went for a drive." Then Ian tells Hyelju, "You should rest." So Hyelju says goodbye to everyone and goes to her room. But at night, Hyelju couldn't sleep at all. She keeps thinking about their kiss, making her feel very embarrassed. Then, she says to herself, it's not a big deal. We did it because we got stuck in that moment. But still, she feels quite embarrassed. Meanwhile, Ian couldn't sleep either, but he looks very happy and keeps blushing thinking about their kiss. Later, he comes to meet Hyelju and calls her. Hyelju notices him but doesn't say anything. Ian then returns to his room. The next morning, Hyelju tries to leave quietly for her office, but Ian is already waiting for her. He asks, "Where are you going?" Hearing his voice, she gets startled and is about to fall, but Ian catches her in his arms. Hyelju's gaze falls on his lips. She keeps staring. Then she moves away and says, "I'm going to my work because I'm the CEO." Saying this, she runs off. Ian smiles, seeing her. After this, Hedu goes straight to the church. She tells the priest, "Can I get an exorcism done on myself? I feel like I'm possessed." She remembers that kiss scene again. So she says, "I can donate a lot of money to the church," but the priest chases her away. Outside, she runs into Jung Ho. He sees her and asks, "What are you doing here? I thought you weren't religious," but she says nothing. Jung Ho says, "I'll be right back. Wait for me," and he leaves. Just then, Ian calls Heju and asks, "Are you free today? We were supposed to go to the palace for the wedding schedule." Just then, Jung Ho comes and calls her name. Ian realizes that they are together and he doesn't like that at all. Hyegdu tells him, "I'll talk to you later," and hangs up. Now, while driving, Jung Ho looks very happy. Hyegdu asks, "Do you also like driving?" The Grand Prince does. He feels like he's flying. While saying this, she is smiling a lot herself, which Jung Ho doesn't like. So later, when she arrives at her company and is about to leave, he tells her, "Don't get too attached. Otherwise, there might be problems at the time of divorce." But Hyegdu says, "I'm not an idiot," and goes inside. Inside the company, Hyegdu says to herself, "Does he think I don't know the difference between work and private life?" Later, she asks Haejong to pull out a list of all the premium affiliate partners of Castle Beauty because she is going to visit all those stores to tell them that if there's a drop in revenue after she leaves, their royalties will be in danger. She also asks to call Minjin. Meanwhile, the king is choosing a date for Ian's wedding. Just then, Ian arrives. The king chooses the earliest date possible, but Ian tells him, "I chose this date." Yoon asks the reason. Ian says, "We need time for the preparations." The king agrees and fixes that date. Meanwhile, Heju goes to her first affiliate partner's store. She tells them, even if I'm getting married, I will keep coming here for inspection. They say, we will do our best. Just then, Minjin and Gaeong also arrives there. They both start checking a necklace. Now Heju tells her brother, this is the first handover of my shares. Hearing this, he is shocked, so he asks, are you serious? Heju says, yes, but if you fail this time, I'll kill you. Saying this, she leaves. Now both of them are very happy. Later, Haejong asks Heju, are you really going to give the castle group to your brother? You have the option to hire another executive. But Heju says, then I can never return to Castle Beauty. But now that everything is on Minjin's name, my dad will realize my importance. And then they will come saying I'm 1,000,000 times better than Minjin. So, the successor of the castle group should be me. After that, she arrives at the royal palace to choose the wedding dress. Ian is already there. She keeps looking at him, but as soon as he sees her, she looks away. Then both are trying their wedding dresses. Ian keeps looking at her, but Heju avoids his gaze. Ian then comes close to her, fixes her hair, but Heju's heartbeat starts racing. This makes her blush intensely. Seeing this, Suki asks her, are you sick? Haejong and Choi rush in and are about to call the royal physician, but Heju calms everyone down and says, I just felt a little hot because of too many layers of dress. Then she asks, Haejong, we need to go for our next appointment, right? But Choi says, the next appointment is right here. The royal physician is coming for a health checkup and dinner is scheduled at Heju's family home tomorrow. Haejong tells her that the chairman has already been spoken to about it. Heju is shocked because she didn't know anything about this. Then Choi says, I'm going to complete the marriage proposal and wedding gift delivery ceremonies. Saying this, he loads 3 cars with gifts and arrives at Heju's family home. In front of Heju's father, he reads the marriage proposal written by the king and starts explaining all the wedding ceremonies. Meanwhile, the royal physicians have arrived for the health assessment. The court lady is talking about fertility and future children. Hearing all this in front of Ian, Heju becomes even more awkward. The physician thinks she is sick, but Heju says she is fine. However, Ian smirks as he knows the reason. So he asks everyone to leave so he can talk to Heju alone. He asks her, tell me what happened. You look troubled. Why are you behaving strangely? But Heju says, you are the one behaving strangely. Even in front of everyone, you fixed my hair. And your eyes? You keep looking at me with those lovable eyes. He says, my eyes have always been like this. Then he asks, is this because of last night? But Heju says, no, I'm absolutely chill about it. It happened in the flow and we got stuck in the moment. If it had been a stranger, everyone would have done the same. But Ian says, I wouldn't have done that. I did that because it was you. Hearing this, Heju's heartbeat speeds up again. Then in the evening, the Queen Mother comes to talk to him. She asks him, you seem a bit upset. You're not angry because of what I said last evening, are you? He says, nothing like that. The Queen Mother asks, then did you have a fight with Heju? Says no. But it seems you want us to fight. Irene says, I'm just worried. You two come from different worlds. This happening is common. On this, Ian says, my brother and you came from the same world, but were you ever happy? Irene remembers a scene when she had to go to an event with the king, but when she called him, he told her to go alone. Just then, Ian comes and asks, did my brother run away again? It's okay. I'll come with you. Irene says, your father will scold you for it. He says, what's new about that? He scolds me every day. This shows us that their relationship wasn't always bad. Back to the present, Irene says. There is no place for happiness in a royal union. Then we see Sang-woo in his room. He recalls the scene from 3 years ago. When the king died, he came to see the Queen Mother, but she was very scared. Here, the Queen Mother had told her father that the king had issued a royal decree stating that he, Ian, would be the next king. So, in anger, she burned that royal decree, causing the palace fire. On the other side, we see Ian in his room. He opens his safe, and here we learn that the royal decree is still with him. Only a small part of it burned. The next day, we see Minjun and Gaeong. Both are excited to meet Ian. Her father is still a bit grumpy. Minjun tells him, she is your daughter. If you hate her, that's fine, but you shouldn't hate your son-in-law. Henjuk says, stop talking nonsense. Next, we see Heju and Ian in the car. Choi tells them, we might have to stay there for 4 hours because it wouldn't look good if they left early. Hearing this, Heju is shocked. In the next scene, they both arrive at Heju's house. Mr. Song welcomes them. Ian calls Minjin brother, which makes him very happy. Meanwhile, Choi and Haejong are sitting together. Choi says, these two have been acting a bit different since yesterday from how they were acting just a few days ago. Haejong says, maybe they've started liking each other. Just then, Haejong has to leave for some work. Choi notices she has made a flower and left it there. He smiles looking at Haejong. On the other side, everyone sits down for dinner. Meanwhile, Heejoo and Minjin keep bickering because he keeps doing or saying something silly from time to time. But Gyeong scolds him and tells him not to ask such thing. Then her father asks him, please take care of her. I thought she would probably marry someone slightly below her status. But now that she's marrying into the royal family, I am a bit worried. Ian says, I will always take good care of her. Her father interrupts him and says, that place is known for its troubles and tragedies, and that's what I'm more worried about. Heejoo says, since when did you start worrying about me so much? Where was my caring father when I had my accident? When your son got married, you gave company shares and buildings to his in-laws. Now that your only daughter is getting married, you must have prepared some gift, but he says nothing. Heejoo then gets up and goes to her room without eating. Ian also goes to talk to her. Heejoo says, leave me alone for a while, but Ian comes and sits beside her. Ian says, I think your father likes me, but Heejoo says, he's just acting. He just wants to increase his company's numbers by using you. But Ian says, I don't mind. If I have anything that can benefit you or your family, if you say so, I'm ready to give it. Heejoo keeps looking at him and asks, by any chance, do you have feelings for me? And that kiss, is this your first time? Ian finally says, yes, I like you, and this is my first time. Heejoo just stares at him. He asks, are you having second thoughts that I won't give you a divorce? Then he says, don't worry. I won't trap. Whatever you wish will happen, so get ready to accept it, whether it's money, honor, or my heart. But Heejoo says, I have more money than you and I always will. Then they both start laughing. In the next scene, they are returning back to his home. Nothing seems awkward between them anymore. Ian looks at her. He wants to hold her hand. But just then, Jung-ho calls Heejoo. He asks how the dinner was. Then he starts talking to Ian. Ian says, my father-in-law really liked me. Then he starts chatting casually with Heejoo. Seeing them talk together, Ian feels quite jealous. Then he drops Heejoo to his private residence and says, now we will meet on the wedding day. Then he comes closer and says, I'm sad to leave too. Saying this, he leaves. Heejoo then goes inside where Manager Young and the others are waiting for her. They hadn't eaten, so she takes everyone out for a treat where they all enjoy a barbecue. The next day, Ian suddenly arrives at Prime Minister Jung-ho's office. He directly tells him, I like Heejoo. Jung-ho says, does me knowing change anything? Does Heejoo know? Ian says, I'm talking about myself right now, not Heejoo. Just know that I like her, and you need to treat her with a bit more respect from now on. However, Jung-ho tells him Heejoo doesn't want this from you. On this, Ian says, then why didn't she marry you? The status she wants by marrying me? You could have given her that too. Maybe there's something in me that she needs, which you don't have. Saying this, he leaves. Later, he messages Heejoo to eat on time. He then sees Heejoo's ads on buildings being taken down and Choi tells him that she can no longer be involved in any personal promotions. He also messages her, why are you taking down the ads so soon? Make money while you still can. Reading this, Heejoo smiles. Then finally, their wedding day arrives. Ian looks very happy while getting ready. He asks, where is Heejoo? But Suki says, you should address her properly from now on. Then, feeling shy, he asks, where is my wife? Meanwhile, Heejoo is also getting ready by Young and others. Gaeong also arrives to check if her dress and makeup are alright. Meanwhile, the Queen Mother meets Jung-ho. She asks, are you okay? Jung-ho says, what would happen to me? The Queen Mother says, alright then. I'll wait for the time when you can't control yourself, because she knew Jung-ho liked Heejoo and was not at all happy about this marriage. Later, Heejoo gets ready and comes out. Everyone says she looks very pretty. Then their wedding begins and we see Heejoo and Ian coming face to face. The wedding rituals are being performed. Something is given to drink. Heejoo drinks it. However, she starts coughing. Ian asks, are you okay? Heejoo says she is okay. After this, Hangju comes to Heejoo and says, always keep your face up, or else you will look weak. With this, their wedding is complete. After that, they head from his residence to the palace. The entire route is filled with crowds. Their chariot passes through them. Both smile throughout the journey, reaching the palace like true celebrities. Seeing this, Jung-ho feels absolutely terrible. Seeing him, the Queen Mother says, that's why I told you to use your veto power. How long will you keep suppressing your feelings? Meanwhile, Manager Young, Miss Ming, and everyone else are very happy and getting emotional, while Iram looks troubled. In the palace, a grand welcome is given to the couple. Ian congratulates Heejoo on achieving the title of Grand Princess. After that, They arrive at the royal court to meet the king. Everyone is congratulating them, but then suddenly Hee-ju starts coughing, and it keeps getting worse. After that, she feels dizzy and faints right there. Ian quickly holds her. Everyone is shocked seeing her suddenly faint. The queen mother immediately calls for the royal physician. Ian calls for Choi and tells him to call Hee-ju's dad. They are taking Hee-ju to Castle Hospital. Saying this, he takes Hee-ju and leaves. Later, they are taking Hee-ju to the hospital in a car. Jung-ho orders traffic to be cleared so Ian's car can reach Castle Hospital without interruption and orders royal guards to be deployed outside the hospital. Hee-ju arrives at the hospital and is then taken to the ICU. Meanwhile, at Ian's private residence, Hye-jong arrives and tells everyone they must stay put. Everyone has to stay here, and she is staying with them. She also asks them to preserve everything Hee-ju ate or wore exactly as it is. Just then, she notices Iram hiding and listening to their conversation, looking very scared. Meanwhile, Hee-ju's family arrives at the hospital and asks Ian how this happened. The doctor comes out and says Hee-ju has digoxin poisoning. Digoxin is medication for arrhythmia, but an overdose can be fatal. Fortunately, she received emergency treatment before anything serious happened, so she is out of danger. Suddenly, Hee-ju's dad pulls Ian and slaps him. As royal guards move towards him, Ian tells them to stand back. Hanguk says he hopes Ian won't take this incident lightly. Ian replies, "Don't worry, I have no intention of doing that." On the other side, the queen mother is worried. Her court lady tells her about the digoxin poisoning, and she wonders who could have poisoned her. Meanwhile, Jung-hoi is furious. He asks his secretary to find out where Ian is. Just then, Ian arrives. Jung-ho angrily says, "She hadn't even been your wife for a day, and you couldn't save her." Ian replies, "That's why I'm here. Investigate everyone, from the staff to the royal family." Jung-ho is shocked hearing this. Ian confirms, "I authorize a public inquiry into the palace, effective immediately. This will be the first time police investigate the palace." In the next scene, Jung-ho meets Irene and tells her about the public investigation, but Irene says that he cannot do this, as it's a matter of the king's honor. But Jung-ho says the incident happened inside the palace, so an investigation is necessary, not just for Hee-ju, but for the safety of the king as well. The queen mother asks that this means the royal family will be investigated too. Jung-ho says the grand prince himself authorized it. The queen mother says Ian isn't the king. Jung-ho replies, "But he is the regent, whose duty is to act as king." Later, Jung-ho holds a press conference and announces everything about the investigation, and the investigation begins. The police arrive at the private residence, seize all the items, and take the servants with them for questioning. They take statements from everyone one by one. When it's Iram's turn, she looks the most scared, and the investigators look at her suspiciously. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Choi, Minjin, and his wife are with Hee-ju. Choi asks them what they are doing there. Minjin says his father told them to stay here until Hee-ju wakes up. Just then, Hee-ju regains consciousness, and they come to talk to her. In the next scene, Suki runs to Ian and informs him that Hee-ju has regained consciousness. Hearing this, Ian immediately rushes to the hospital. There, he sees Hee-ju awake on the bed. He rushes to her and hugs her tightly. Hee-ju sees Ian crying and asks him, "Why are you crying?" Ian gets very emotional and hugging her tighter says, "I thought I would lose you." Hee-ju calms him, gently patting his back, and asks, "How did I faint?" Just then, Jung-ho arrives with the head of royal security and the police chief to take Ian for questioning. He tells Choi to stay with Hee-ju and leaves with the police. In the next scene, Hee-ju asks Jung-ho the reason she fainted. Jung-ho tells her about the digoxin overdose. Hee-ju doesn't know how it all happened, but then she remembers that during their wedding, she bumped into a table with 2 goblet bowls. The bowls slid a little. Hae-jong put them back in place, but Hee-ju thinks they might have been switched at that time. Hee-ju then tries to remove her four to go to Ian, but Jung-ho stops her. On the other side, we see Ian being interrogated. He is asked about digoxin medicine. He says, "I take it occasionally." Ian then reveals that he was the real target. His wife, who never took this medication, survived the overdose. But if he had drunk it, he would have died. Meanwhile, Hee-ju tries to leave, but Choi stops her, saying it's the Grand Prince's order for her to rest. Jung-ho tells her to stay while he goes to the Grand Prince. In the next scene, Jung-ho arrives at the police station. His secretary gives him Ian's medical records. When Ian comes out, Jung-ho tells him to return to the palace. Ian says his wife is in the hospital, but Jung-ho says she will be brought to the palace by evening, and the palace is the safest place for them both, because everything will be under Ian's control there. In the next scene, Ian returns to the palace. He tells Suki to prepare a room for Hee-ju, stating he will personally choose all the staff from now on. Meanwhile, Hee-ju scrolls through articles about herself. She calls Ian. "Where did you go? Choi is here too. You can't just leave without him." Ian tells her, Don't worry, you will be in the palace soon. In the morning, Gaeong comes to see Heju, sent by Ian. Doctors say Heju's body has been detoxified, but she needs 2 days of ECG monitoring at the palace. Being sick but wanting to appear weak for the public, Heju does her makeup to look ill and puts on a dramatic act of being sick for the media. Haejong, handling the PR department, gets articles written in Heju's favor. Some commenters criticize the Queen Mother. Meanwhile, the Queen Mother learns that Heju's duties for the month are being redistributed because she is sick. She tells the royal secretariat she is ready to take on all of the Grand Princess's duty, wanting to put on an act of being a good sister-in-law. In the next scene, Heju arrives at the palace. The Queen Mother comes to welcome her. Irene says, "Since you're not well, I can handle all your duties." Heju says nothing and walks inside. When Ian learns the Queen Mother wants to take the duties, he rejects the request. The king must issue a statement about the incident. The Queen Mother requests to accompany him, but Ian also rejects this, wanting the king to become capable on his own. Next, Heju visits the king first. Yoon asks her, "Are you okay?" Heju agrees. "I'm fine," Hyun tells her. The police came. They were investigating. Heju says, "They were checking whether I really got sick or if someone did it intentionally." Just then, Ian arrives there. Heju quickly runs to him. He smiles looking at her. Meanwhile, Haejong arrives at the palace and puts on a necklace. She has now become a royal assistant. Choi is very happy to see her. In the next scene, Ian brings Heju to her room, where doctors set up an ECG machine. Ian talks to Suki, telling her to take care of since she doesn't know all the palace route, and says only her, Haejong, and Choi can visit until new staff are hired. Wanting some alone time to rest, Heju calls Ian over, saying she needs to talk to him privately. Ian gets flustered and asks everyone to leave immediately. Once alone, Heju lies down on the bed. Ian looks at her and asks if this is why she wanted everyone sent out. She says she thought she'd be carefree after becoming Grand Princess, but now feels she has to look elegant every second, with everyone's eyes on her. Ian says it's because everyone wants to protect her, but Heju says he needs security, not her, because he was the target. Ian admits he knows, and he feels good knowing that. Heju looks at him and hits him with a pillow, asking if he wanted to make her a widow. She starts crying and says if something happens to him, she couldn't even get a divorce. Ian laughs, saying her way of showing concern is unique, but tells her to rest and that she is royal now. She asks if she has to stay silent even if someone tries to harm her. Ian says no, she should use her royal powers. Haejong and Choi are scheduling Heju's duty. The first is an invitation to the Royal Academy's 18th anniversary. On the other side, the Queen Mother is not happy to learn Heju will do her own duties. Later, Sangwoo visits, and the Queen Mother tells him that the palace is being investigated. He should stay away from the palace for a while. If they investigate him, there might be a misunderstanding. Sangwoo agrees. Meanwhile, Jung-ho receives a forensic report showing traces of digoxin in the goblet bowls that were exchanged during the wedding, which Heju had told him about. Just then, Iram comes to meet him. At night, Heju is talking to Haejong on the phone when Ian comes out after a shower. Heju keeps looking at him. Ian comes to her and says, "It's our first night of marriage. Are you ready?" Heju drops her phone and her heartbeat accelerates. On the other side, Choi is taking Haejong to her room because she doesn't know the way. Haejong asks how long he has worked there, as he's young but knows every path like he was born. Choi says he was about 5 or 6 when his parents left him outside Grand Prince Ian's private residence. Haejong feels terrible for him, but Choi says it's okay. He's lucky to have grown up among such good people. Haejong starts developing feelings for Choi back in the room. Both are lying on the bed. Heju suggests he sleep on the sofa, but Ian says he's comfortable there. She should go. Heju says, "Hello, I'm the patient here." She puts a pillow between them, but Ian throws it away. Then he pulls her into his arms and tells her to just sleep like this. Otherwise, people might think she kicked him out on their first night. The ECG machine beeps. Heju asks if she should turn it off. Ian says no. The sound proves she's alive, so he likes it. Heju kisses him and says she's just reassuring him that she's here. Then she covers her face, feeling shy. Ian kisses her forehead, and they sleep happily. The next morning, Ian wakes up first, and seeing Heju sleeping peacefully, he is very happy. Just then, Court Lady Suki announces that Choi and Haejong are here. Ian messages Choi, warning that if the Grand Princess wakes up due to their noise, they will be in trouble. Choi immediately silences the court lady, and everyone leaves, letting Heju sleep. Later, Heju looks over her royal duties and calls for Haejong, but Choi comes, saying he is now her assistant, as he knows all the protocol. Heju shouts, asking where Haejong is, and learns she is currently Ian's assistant. On the other side, Haejong is with Ian, helping him. Meanwhile, Choi tells Haeju that the Royal Academy is having an anniversary, and they both need to attend together. While Haeju gets ready, Choi explains the rule. Walk behind Ian. No hi, hello, heart signs, thumbs up, no crossing legs, always smile, as anyone could take a photo. Later, Ian comes and asks if she is ready. Haeju looks at him and tells him to change his clothes, saying he looks dull, and since it's their first event after marriage, they should go in a couple outfit. As she leaves, Ian asks Haejong if he looks dull, but Haejong says nothing like that. He looks so cool. In the next scene, both arrive in front of the Royal Academy. Both wearing matching outfits, appear in front of the public and pose a little. Then Haeju holds his arm and they go inside together. Later, Haejong informs them the Prime Minister will be late. Since Jung-ho is late, Haejong suggests Haeju give the opening address. As Haeju comes on stage and is speaking about herself and the school, all the students suddenly check their phones. Ian also sees this news. The public has found out that Haeju and Ian have a contract and will divorce after 3 years. The media rushes inside and starts questioning Haeju about the contract. Haeju doesn't know what to say and gets very nervous, but Ian comes before her and tells her to look into his eyes. He then holds her hand and leads her away from everyone. Prime Minister Jung-ho comes to receive them. Choi and Haejong inform them that there are many reporters outside asking what they should do now. Ian says he will go first, but Haeju holds his hand and says they will go together. However, in the next scene, Choi and Hwang come out instead, holding each other's hand. Royal guards shield them with umbrellas, so the public think they are Ian and Haeju. They both get inside the car, and realizing they had been holding each other's hand, both feel a bit awkward and shy. The media and everyone else are surrounding their car, so Prime Minister Jung-ho takes Ian and Haeju away from the other side. Meanwhile, Choi and Haejong arrive at the palace to handle matters, where Irene is already looking for Ian and Haeju. She asks Choi where the two of them are. As he is about to say something, Haejong tells him to be quiet. On the other side, Jung-ho brings them into his office. They discuss what to do next, although Jung-ho says that no one from the royal family will speak about this, because if the contract is real, any explanation will only make the matter worse. But Ian refuses, stating that their relationship was fake in the beginning, but not anymore, and while they deceived the public before, they won't do so now. Jung-ho gets angry and asks Ian if he thinks telling public the truth will make them believe him. He also asks, can either of them guarantee that their divorce won't happen? Neither of them has an answer. Just then, Jung-ho's security chief arrives and takes him away to show him something important. They find out through the news that an even bigger scandal has occurred. Someone told the media that Haeju was the prime suspect in the palace fire on the king's birthday, and that Ian saved her from punishment. Now people are saying that Ian and Haeju planned it together, that Ian is committing treason to become king, and Haeju is helping him. On the other side, Ian asks Haeju if she is scared. She denies it, saying she has nothing to lose. Then she asks if he is scared because he has things to lose. Ian admits he is scared and feels that because of what he owns, he might ruin her. Just then, Jung-ho arrives and tells them they must go to the palace as the public will protest there tomorrow. Believing Ian did all this to gain the throne, so staying inside the palace will be safest for them. Meanwhile, the Queen Mother calls all the relatives to the counseling hall for a meeting. As Haeju and Ian enter the palace, Haejong and Choi tell them about the meeting. Ian goes there, sees everyone, and asks to speak privately with the Queen Mother, but she refuses and begins to humiliate him. How dare you deceive the public and the royal family, she said. You sold your royal status, and Haeju bought it. She then starts to talk about Haeju being illegitimate, which angers Ian, but Haeju holds his hand, stopping him. Then she tells Choi and Haejong to take them away. Ian leaves in a rage. Haeju follows him and holds his hand to calm him down. She notices a cut on his hand from clenching his fist in anger. As she goes to get first aid, Ian hugs her and says, "Don't worry, I'm okay." The next day, Choi comes to Haejong and shows her another article claiming Haeju fainted in the royal court on purpose, which increases the gossip and public anger. We see the public protesting outside the palace, demanding that Ian step down from his position as the king's representative. In the next scene, Prime Minister Jung-ho comes to meet Ian. Ian tells him that things are escalating. Even though their marriage started with a contract, everything between them was genuine. But Jung-ho asks, what about the public's claim that you did this for the throne? Would you deny it? Ian asks, what would your response be if I don't deny it? Jung-ho replies, we don't want a king without public support. so it would be better if you resign from your position. We then see a scene from 5 days before the contract leak. Jung-ho had called Iram because he was suspicious of her background. Her brother needed money for a kidney transplant, and she was the one who set the bowls during the wedding rituals. Upon questioning, she confessed everything on record that she had done it on the orders of the Queen Mother's father, Mr. Sangwoo. She was told that her brother's surgery would be stopped if she didn't comply. Jung-ho took this proof to the Queen Mother, but Irene kept saying her father couldn't do such a thing. Jung-ho says she knows it's true and asks if she was involved. Just then, Ian arrived to meet the Queen Mother. Jung-ho says the Grand Prince still doesn't know anything. The Queen Mother asks for some time. Jung-ho agrees, giving her until tonight. He leaves, and Ian asks him what he was doing, to which Jung-ho replies he just came for some work. Outside, he meets Haeju with her servant. Later, Haeju asks Jung-ho how the investigation is going and offers help. Jung-ho says it's getting very real. Haeju asks if she can't even show concern for her husband, adding that Jung-ho knows their marriage is just a show. But Jung-ho can see that Haeju genuinely cares for Ian. Meanwhile, the Queen Mother visits her father. She shows him the evidence and asks if he truly wanted to kill the Grand Prince. Her father asks where she got it. Irene yells if he's gone mad, worrying what will happen if this gets out. Sangwoo says Ian could take the throne, so they must do this. He reminds her that 3 years ago she didn't just burn the king's decree. The king also died in that fire. He asks her to think about what Ian would do if he found out. The Queen Mother says she had nothing to do with the king's death. Her father says no one will believe that. He doesn't care what she did, but she must keep the king safe to protect their family name. And to do that, they need to eliminate Ian. The next day, the Queen Mother meets Jung-ho and says, I thought about why you brought me the evidence instead of going to the Grand Prince. It's because you love Haeju. She then hands him a file containing Ian and Haeju's wedding contract. She says, if this gets out, the conditions benefit Haeju more, so she will face the most public outrage. Jung-ho says I wouldn't let that happen, but Irene replies, you want to protect her, I understand, but you have until tonight to decide. Saying this, she leaves. Back in the present, Ian asks Jung-ho what authority he has to tell him to relinquish his position. Jung-ho says his duty is to protect the crown, so Ian must face his downfall alone. He cannot let the king be caught up in all this. A court lady tells Irene that Jung-ho has been meeting with Ian for a long time. Irene says she wants to talk to Haeju now. Haeju is informed that Jung-ho told Ian to leave his position, even though he was on her side. She is also told that Irene wants to meet her. In their meeting, she asks how Haeju feels, ruining the name of the country's beloved Grand Prince. She asks what Ian gained from her by having this fake marriage. Hearing this, Haeju smiles and says she's sure the Queen Mother read in the contract that Ian wants nothing from her. He even agreed to stay with her for 3 years. Saying this, Haeju leaves but is very angry. On the other side, Haejong tells Ian that Mr. Sangwoo has come to meet the king to appeal for Ian's removal. Hearing this, Ian angrily heads to the court. Meanwhile, we see Sangwoo shouting at the king, showing him rumors about a past fire, but the king yells that his uncle didn't do it. Sangwoo tries to turn the nephew against Ian. Just then, Ian arrives, grabs Sangwoo by the throat, and asks how he dare threaten the king. He orders a court lady to take the king away. Ian tells Sangwoo he knows about his schemes and asks if he's scared Ian will become king. Haeju arrives and tries to stop him. Ian, still threatening Sangwoo, says if he wants to remove him from the palace, he'll have to kill him. But if he ever threatens his nephew again, he will die a death he never imagined. Saying this, Ian leaves. Outside, Ian sees the king crying. He remembers a scene from 3 years ago when Ian was going to talk to his brother, but a court lady says Irene is with him. Just then, Yoon arrives and they start playing. They overhear a conversation from a nearby room where Ian's brother writes a royal decree stating that after him, Ian will ascend the throne, preferring this over death. Irene takes the decree, burns it, and says she would rather see him die, doing everything for the crown prince. Back in the present, Ian hugs the king and tells him to come to him whenever he's scared. Back in his room, Ian tells Haeju he is sorry she saw that side of him. Haeju says it's fine. She likes that he is fighting back. To protect the ones we love, we should fight back. At night, Haeju comes to Ian, who is asleep. She touches his face, remembering the scene when he said he was scared, and confesses that she is scared too, feeling she might ruin him because of her. The next day, Minjun tells Haeju about the company's bad situation, which could also cause problems for her father. When Ian arrives, asking what's wrong, Haeju makes an excuse that her father isn't feeling well and she's going to see him. Ian offers to go together, but Haeju refuses, saying the public might see them, so she'd go alone. He agrees. In the next scene, Haeju goes to Jung-ho's office and asks what she should do, as both the palace and her company are in big trouble. Jung-ho tells her to do nothing for now. He will take care of her, but Haeju says she's not worried about herself. Jung-ho says she's not acting anymore. She said her relationship was just a show, but it doesn't seem that way. On this, Haeju admits he's right. She likes Ian a lot. Jung-ho isn't happy about this. Getting no help there, Haeju goes to her father, kneels before him, and apologizes for deceiving him and ruining the company's stock, begging for his help one last time. Hangak comes before her and asks if she wants to save herself or the Grand Prince. Haeju says she can save herself, but she needs his help for the Grand Prince. Meanwhile, Ian is working when Haejong brings him black tea and asks when he will take a day off. Ian asks what happened. Haejong says a request has come from the Prime Minister's office for him to step down from his official duties. Ian says Haeju must not find out about this. In the night, when Haeju arrives, Ian seems very happy. Haeju hugs him. Ian asks what happened, if it was a gift. Haeju looks at him and says, "Let's get a divorce." Shocked, Ian freezes. Then we see a flashback. Haeju goes to her father to ask for help. Hanjak asks her, "Do you want to save yourself or the Grand Prince?" Haeju replies, "I want to save the Grand Prince. I can save myself." So her father tells her to get a divorce. He says that when the Grand Prince loses her, his weakness will be gone, and his enemies will have nothing left to target. Only then will he be able to fight back freely. Haeju asks what he would have said if she had chosen herself. He replies, "I would still have told you to get a divorce, to get out of that hell and not let yourself get hurt any further." Later, Haeju meets Ian. She hugs him and says, "Let's get a divorce." Hearing this, Ian is shocked. Haeju explains, "My father's health has deteriorated from taking stress about us. Stock prices have fallen. Our public image is ruined. A tax audit is coming. All these problems are making him sick. I married you to become the successor of the company, but if things continue like this, I'll have no place to go back to." Ian tries to say something, but Haeju says she isn't blaming him. It's both their fault, but now she wants to minimize her losses. Ian asks, "And for that? You want a divorce?" Haeju says, "In this situation, someone has to step forward to reduce the damage." Ian asks, "Did the Queen Mother say something to you while I was away?" Haeju yells, "Whatever the Queen Mother said to me is none of your concern. You said you wouldn't trap me here forever. So let me go." On this, Ian don't know what to say anymore. At night, Ian is wandering alone and eventually enters his late brother's empty quarters. He goes inside and breaks down in tears. He recalls a past conversation when Ian once called his brother a coward, and his brother simply replied, "Whatever happens, don't become like me." Coming back to the present, Ian wonders if his brother felt the same loneliness and helplessness that he's feeling now. The next morning, Haeju comes to talk to Ian. She tells him that she will attend the council hall meeting herself and personally speak about the divorce. Ian coldly replies, "Do whatever you want." Meanwhile, Haegwang is shocked to hear about the divorce. She asks Choi how this suddenly happened, but Choi doesn't tell her the truth because he promised Haegwoo he wouldn't tell anyone. Just then, Ian calls Haegwang and tells her something. In the next scene, Haeju, Ian, Choi, and Haejong arrive at the council hall meeting. There, a proposal is being discussed to remove Ian from his position as crown representative. Just then, Haeju interrupts Mr. Sangwoo and announces that she and the Grand Prince are getting a divorce. Hearing this, everyone is shocked. Haeju boldly takes all the blame upon herself, saying, "I married him to gain royal status. I was the prime suspect in the fire on the king's birthday. I faked fainting by drinking poison, so strip me of my grand princess rank. Approve our divorce, then investigate me. Then it will be clear if I was the culprit or if I was really poisoned. Either way, I will prove that the grand prince had nothing to do with any of this." At the same time, Min Jun holds a press conference at his company to address Haeju and the grand prince's contract marriage. Reporters start asking questions. Are the allegations against her true? Did she fake taking poison? Min Jun responds, "My sister, who had everything. Why would she risk her life by drinking poison?" He then shows the contract and explains that it clearly states that after the divorce, Haeju must give up everything she gained due to her royal status. He reminds everyone of the dating scandal. The royal family was against the marriage, and even her family didn't believe they would get married, but the couple proved them wrong because they were so in love. A reporter asks, "Then why include the divorce clause?" Minjun admits, I was overly protective of my sister. I believed no love lasts long, so I suggested the contract, and that clause was added at my request. He apologizes for troubling the public, but he warns, I have saved PDF files of everyone who created false stories, so think carefully before writing anything. Saying this, he leaves. His statement slowly begins turning public opinion in their favor. Back at the meeting, Jung-ho asks if the Grand Prince agrees. Ian looks at Hae-jong, who signals to him. Just then, some ministers from the royal secretariat arrive, carrying a royal command from the king, an imperial decree. A flashback shows what happened last night. When Ian went to his brother's quarters, he said, I will not live like you. Then, returning to he opened a box containing the king's clothes. He then went to meet Yoon and said, Your Majesty, I want my throne back. Yoon agreed because he knew his father had made Ian the king. The royal order had the king's seal. Since Yoon was only 5 years old then, he had written an order making Ian the king. Ian had this royal decree, but never used it. Instead, Yoon himself had a royal command written, stating that he is abdicating the throne of his own sound mind and handing it over to his uncle. Therefore, Grand Prince Ian will be the king. Everyone is shocked, especially Sang-woo, who tries to leave to meet the king. Ian asks if he wants to leave in the middle of the king's royal command. Sang-woo stops, and everyone bows their head. After the meeting ends, Hee-ju wants to talk to Ian, but Ian is very angry with her. He says, You wanted a divorce because you were incurring losses, but today, you took all the blame upon yourself. You never believed that I could protect us both. You never trusted me. Saying this, he walks away. When the Queen Mother learns that Yoon has issued the royal decree abdicating the throne and naming Ian as the next king, she goes crazy. She goes to Yoon's quarters to talk to him. Yoon, knowing she would come, had barricaded the door from inside. The Queen Mother arrives, screams, and starts pounding on the door. Inside, Yoon covers his ears, remembering a scene where his mother spoke to his father when the palace was on fire, and he heard everything. Then Jung-ho arrives and calms her down. In the next scene, Irene asks how this happened, saying if Ian sits on the throne, he will become king, and Hee-ju will stay forever, so Jung-ho won't get her. Jung-ho says that won't happen. The Grand Prince must refuse 2 more times. Stop either the king or the Grand Prince before that happens. Meanwhile, I will keep Hee-ju's poisoning case aside. He's openly blackmailing her. Meanwhile, Hee-ju feels terrible thinking about Ian. Hae-jong comes and tells her that Ian has left the palace. Hee-ju gets worried because his life could be in even more danger, as he had refused the command. She calls him, but Ian doesn't pick up. We see Ian driving to a place overlooking the city. Hae-jong says she will search for him and tells Hee-ju to stay there. Hee-ju and Ian both miss each other, remembering the moments they spent together. In the next scene, Hae-jong talks to Choi, suggesting they go out. Choi asks about Ian. Hae-jong remembers that for the council hall meeting, Ian had told Hae-jong his entire plan, that Yoon would abdicate, lock himself in his quarters, and Ian would go to his private residence. Ian had asked her to take care of Hee-ju in the palace. Choi asks, Why didn't you tell me earlier? But she asks him why he didn't tell her earlier that Hee-ju wanted a divorce. They go out to hang out by the Han River, drinking alcohol. Hae-jong asks Choi what he likes. Choi shyly says he likes everything the river, alcohol, or her, making both blush. On the other side, Hee-ju is outside, constantly calling and messaging Ian with no response. Suki is behind her, watching. She tells Hee-ju one evening the Grand Prince climbed the wall. He was very happy that day, and I later found out it was because of you. I know you were just protecting each other, and the Grand Prince knows that too. There's still time before the gates close. You should go. I will handle things here. Hee-ju quickly runs out. She gets in her car, messages Ian, and says she's sick. Ian replies that he is at the private residence and will come to the palace tomorrow. Hee-ju drives at full speed and reaches his private residence. Ian says, You said you were sick. I told you I'd be back tomorrow. Hee-ju finally confesses her feelings. I like you. Saying this, she hugs him. Ian says, You're confusing me. But Hee-ju says, No, you know I like you. I only mentioned divorce to protect you. That's why you were angry. She then kisses him, but thinking Ian doesn't want it, she stopped. But Ian kissed her too, and they both kiss and become intimate. The next morning, Hee-ju wakes up, but Ian isn't there. Ian comes in from outside, having received a call earlier. He calms her down. Then he tells her, The king's second royal decree will come today. Stay here until I refuse the third decree. After refusing the third decree, I must accept the king's royal order. But Hee-ju says, I thought you wanted to protect the king. Ian says, No, I want to protect my nephew. He recalls a scene from 3 years ago, when Suki brought him a box from the king containing the king's clothes. He understands his brother wants him to sit on the throne. Then Choi brought terrible news. The king's quarters were on fire, and the king was dead. Right after seeing his older brother's dead body, Ian asked for Yoon to be found. He couldn't save his older brother, but he wanted to save his nephew. In the present, Ian cries and tells Hee-ju he was late and couldn't save his brother. He wants the throne only to protect his nephew, though the public will think he is greedy for it. Hee-ju hugs him and says, "You can be greedy to protect your loved ones." She reassures him and says she will stay with him. On the other hand, protests are still going on outside the palace. Ian arrives, and a court lady tells him the Queen Mother is calling him. He goes alone to meet her. The Queen Mother tells him to refuse becoming king, saying, Yeon is only 8 years old. He issued the decree without thinking. But Ian says that's exactly the issue. He's not capable of being king. He never wanted it, but you still keep him on the throne like a puppet, imposing your will on him. Until now, I stood behind my nephew, but now I will stand in front of him. The Queen Mother starts screaming in anger. Ian says, "You should be thankful that the king abdicated from the front, because of which I won't punish you for your wrongdoing." The Queen Mother screams, "Why do you want to be king now? I sacrificed so much. You should too." A flashback reveals that the Queen Mother was Ian's classmate. Her father fixed her marriage with Ian's older brother. Because of this, she had to give up her dreams, her future, and even her love, who was Ian. Coming back to the present, the Queen Mother cries, asking why he never gives anything up. Ian calls the court lady and says, the Queen Mother is unwell. No one is to meet her for 3 days. At night, Mr. Sang-woo calls the Queen Mother and gets angry at her for not controlling Yoon. He says if Ian becomes king, he will ruin them. The Queen Mother says, Ian told me he wouldn't punish me, but Sang-woo says he is lying and tells her not to worry as he has a plan. Irene asks what he will do, but he doesn't tell her and hangs up. Then Prime Minister Jung-ho arrives to meet Mr. Sang-woo. The next day, Ian is getting ready, as today, Yoon himself will give him the final royal decree. Everyone looks excited and happy. Meanwhile, Yoon comes to meet Irene. She yells at her son, asking why he gave the throne to Ian, listing the things she did to put him on the throne. Yoon cries and yells back that he knows everything. He heard her yelling at his father that day. Irene is shocked. From the very next day, she had started the drama that his father made him king. But Yoon had told his mother that very night that he didn't want to be king. She had forced him into the king's clothes and brought him out. Yoon approaches her and says, "I'm sorry for disappointing." The Queen Mother hugs him and cries. In the evening, Jung-ho arrives at the palace. The Queen Mother is very worried, thinking about what her father is going to do. She calls Ian to alert him, but he doesn't pick up. However, Ian sees Jung-ho's message asking to meet him at the council hall to discuss something. Next we see Hee-ju is working with Choi. She asks him, "Will people like me if I become queen?" Choi says, "Not really, but not everyone is a fan of the Grand Prince either." Hee-ju says, "Never mind, I know no one likes me." Then they leave for the throne hall, where Yoon is supposed to give Ian the final royal decree. The royal family and Sang-woo are also approaching. Suddenly, they hear a blast somewhere in the palace. It came from the council hall. Everyone runs to the council hall, which is completely engulfed in flames. Hee-jung comes running there too. Seeing her, Hee-ju gets even more scared. Hee-ju asks, "Where's the Grand Prince?" Hee-jung frantically says, "The Grand Prince is inside the council hall." Hearing this, Hee-ju is shocked and terrified, thinking about Ian. Then we see a scene from past. The Prime Minister summons Ian to the council hall. Meanwhile, Hae-jong learns that the king is a bit nervous about going to the throne hall alone. So, he has said he will only go with Ian. Thus, Ian sends Hae-jong to stay with the king and goes alone to the council hall. Hee-ju and Choi head towards the throne hall. But just then, an explosion occurs in the council hall. Seeing this, everyone rushes towards the council hall. Then, Hae-jong arrives and informs them that the Grand Prince is inside the council hall. Hearing this, Hae-ju, without a second thought, runs inside and searches for him. Ian is inside and sees her. He recalls a memory where Hee-ju once said, "No matter what happens, I will always be by your side." Hee-ju also sees him. She rushes to him, but by then he has already lost consciousness. She checks on him, hears his heartbeat. It's still there. She tries to lift him, tries to drag him out, but she can't, so she starts screaming for help. Meanwhile, Yoon goes to his mother and starts crying. Irene is confused. The court lady informs her that the counseling hall was on fire and Ian was there. Hearing this, Irene also becomes very worried for Ian. In the next scene, we see Ian in a room, unconscious. Hee-ju is with him, watching over him. Suki tells her not to worry. The physician has said Ian is stable. We just have to wait for him to wake up. But how could you jump into a fire like that? What if Choi hadn't arrived on time? But Hee-ju says, if I were in Ian's place, he would do the same for me. Just then, Jung-ho arrives and sees Hae-ju. Her hand had been injured earlier when she went inside. He takes her outside and starts yelling at her. How could you go inside? You shouldn't be here. You should have gone to a hospital. Heejoo says, how can I go to a hospital? I don't trust anyone. I know the fire was set intentionally. Jung-ho yells, so what if it wasn't an accident? What could you have done? Would you have died in his place? Heejoo replies, so, should I have left him to die inside? Jung-ho shouts, yes, you should have left him. This makes Heejoo very angry. Then Jung-ho looks at her and says, more softly now, how long do I have to see you in danger? How much longer do I have to endure this? Meanwhile, we see Haejong sitting alone in a room. Choi comes to her and says he was looking for her everywhere. Haejong starts crying, blaming herself for what happened. Choi consoles her. Why are you saying such things? If you had been with Ian, what could you have done? Stop blaming yourself. Haejong looks at his hand, which was injured. She holds it, and then we see a flashback of Choi going inside, Haejong trying to stop him. Choi had said, don't worry, I will bring them out safely. Saying this, he goes inside, and after a short time, he brought both of them out. In the present, Haejong says, if you hadn't gone to save them, who knows what would have happened? On this, Choi says, I was just doing my job. Haejong says, I was worried about you. Choi lovingly explains to her that he is perfectly fine. Nothing happened to him, just a few minor scratches. He brings a smile back to Heejong's face with his playful mischief. In the next scene, Haejong comes to Heejoo and asks why she called her. Are you sick? Should we go to the hospital? Heejoo says she is fine. By the way, Ian was supposed to go to the throne hall that day. Why did he go to the council hall? Haejong informs her. Prime Minister Jung-ho had asked him to come there. Hearing this, Heejoo starts to doubt Jung-ho. Later, Heejoo comes to Ian, who is still asleep. She holds his hand and says, you said the palace is a safe place for me. But which place is safe for you? In the next scene, we see Jung-ho looking at the burnt council hall. The chief security officer suggests issuing a joint statement since no one died in the fire. But Jung-ho refuses, saying there's no need to issue any statement until the Grand Prince regains consciousness. The next day, news of the explosion at the royal palace is broadcast, and people start spreading gossip and rumors. Some say Ian might have died. In the next scene, we see Heejoo, Haejong, and Choi in the security room checking CCTV footage. Heejoo tells them they need to see the footage of the council hall from the past month. Heejoo asks, can you review it in 3 days? They agree. Heejoo adds that they also need to check the log records of the security guards. Choi says that falls under the Queen Mother's jurisdiction. He will talk to her, but Heejoo says, never mind. I will talk to her myself. In the next scene, she meets the Queen Mother. The Queen Mother asks how Ian is. But Heejoo ignores the question and says directly, I know you were against Ian. You could be the suspect. If you don't want to be a suspect, I need the shift records from here. Give me permission for that. Heejoo doesn't even drink the tea offered. She says, I'm afraid I can't freely accept anything now. It might be poisoned. The Queen Mother has no choice but to agree. Heejoo later comes out and asks Choi about the investigation. Choi explains that the royal police are investigating, but Prime Minister has forbidden the release of any report. Hearing this, Heejoo's suspicion increases. Choi informs her that Jung-ho has gone to meet Ian. He is in his room. Heejoo runs there. In front of her is Jung-ho, sitting next to Ian. He later comes out. Heejoo comes to see him off. Jung-ho says, I told you I would leave on my own. Heejoo says, I yelled at you last time. Please forgive me for that. By the way, you don't go to church anymore. You're not even wearing your rosary. Jung-ho says, I take it off when I'm working. He then bids her goodbye and leaves. Heejoo's suspicion grows further. In the next scene, we see Minjun and Gaeong at a restaurant. Minjun is calling Heejoo, but she doesn't pick up. There are 2 people nearby talking about what happened at the palace. They say the council hall caught fire, and they think Ian might have died. Both Minjun and Gaeong are very scared. Minjun calls his sister again, but she doesn't pick up because she's with Ian, watching over him. Jung-ho's secretary also talks to him, reporting what the public thinks. They think Ian is in danger, or there are rumors that he has died. What should they do? Jung-ho doesn't react. In the next scene, Jung-ho comes to meet the Queen Mother. He suggests she become the regent in Ian's place, because only this way can Ian be stopped from becoming king. There is no guarantee when Ian will wake up, and they won't get a better chance to stop him. The Queen Mother doesn't want this, but Jung-ho says if she has a problem, he can issue an official order making the Queen Mother the regent. You know I can do that, but it would be better if you request it yourself. Jung-ho is blackmailing the Queen Mother. Just then, they are informed that Ian is awake. Ian enters and greets them both. Jung-ho's plans are ruined. Next, we see Heejoo working with Choi on the shift records. Then she is told that Ian is conscious. Heejoo runs to meet him, but but Ian holds her hand and hugs her tightly. Ian asks, "Why did you do that? Why did you go into the fire?" Hee-ju says, "I found out you were there. Why wouldn't I go?" Ian says, "Forgive me." Meanwhile, Jung-ho is sitting at his home, having a drink. He recalls his conversation with Ian earlier. Ian had said he would resume his duties from today because many rumors are spreading among the public, even rumors of his death. So this is the best time to change public opinion. In the present, Jung-ho calls Mr. Sang-woo and says they need to think of another plan. He angrily throws a glass. At night, Ian and Hee-ju are in each other's arms. Hee-ju asks Ian if he is okay. Ian says, "Don't worry about me. I'm perfectly fine." Hee-ju asks, "Why did you go to meet the Queen Mother first thing after waking up?" Ian says, "I went to meet Jung-ho because due to me being unconscious for so long, it was his duty to find a new regent in my place." Then Hee-ju asks him, "How much do you trust Jung-ho?" Ian says, "I trust him very much. Just as I am bound to the crown, he is bound to the cabinet ministry. Besides, you yourself said you trust him more than you trust me." Hee-ju has no answer because she herself doubts Jung-ho. In the next scene, Ian goes to meet Yoon, who gets very emotional seeing Ian, as he was terrified of losing his uncle like he lost his father. Ian consoles him and says he will always be with him. Meanwhile, Mr. Sang-woo goes to speak with the Queen Mother. He tells her to somehow stop Ian from becoming king. He suggests delaying his coronation by citing his health condition or using a security reason because of the recent gas explosion attack. The Queen Mother asks, "How do you know it was a gas explosion that caused the blast? This hasn't been made public yet." She realizes her father is behind this attack too. Now she doesn't want to hide anything anymore. The Queen Mother then calls Irem and tells her, "I probably won't be able to save you, but I promise I will take care of your family." In the next scene, Ian is working with Haejong, but then he is informed that Irene has arrived outside and wants to meet him. Ian talks to Irene. He sends Haejong out. Irene kneels down, admits all her mistake, reveals all the truth about her father, and hands over all the proof. She also thinks he must have set the fire at the counseling hall too. Ian says, "All right. Now, do you want me to forgive him?" But Irene says, "I just want him to receive the harshest punishment. And if I am a suspect, punish me too." On this, Ian says, "If that's what you want. You already know that the respect you have earned here will disappear in an instant." Irene says. She doesn't care and begs that the king be spared. Meanwhile, Jung-ho has come for shooting practice, where Hee-ju arrives and indirectly makes it clear that from now on, Jung-ho is her enemy. Jung-ho understands that Hee-ju suspects him. Then Hee-ju learns that Ian is at his private residence. Haejong calls her and says Ian is drunk. She should come there. Hee-ju goes inside. Ian is sitting there. He says, "My dear wife has arrived." Hee-ju sits beside him. Later, Ian tells her that the Queen Mother came to meet him today and told him about her father, but he doesn't know what to do now. At night, Ian is sleeping. Hee-ju comes and sits by him. She strokes his face and says, "Your heart is very gentle. That's why my heart keeps breaking." The next day, the king and Queen Mother personally hand over the resignation letter to the ministers. Both are very happy doing so. Meanwhile, Ian calls Jung-ho for a meeting. He asks him about the poisoning case. Jung-ho tells him that Mr. Sang-woo was behind it. Ian asks what punishment he has thought of. Jung-ho says, "He is the Queen Mother's father and the king's grandfather, so I have to think about the crown. I have decided that Mr. Sang-woo will not be allowed in the palace anymore." Ian says, "He tried to kill me. He must go to jail." But Jung-ho argues that will damage the crown's reputation. Ian declares, "I don't care. As soon as I become king, I will end this monarchy. Enough is enough. Now everyone will live their life as they wish." Hearing this, Jung-ho leaves, not stopping even when he sees Hee-ju. That very night, Mr. Sang-woo and Irem are arrested. Debates about the royal family are going on in the media. But the good thing is that now the king can freely meet his mother, and the Queen Mother can show him her love. The next day, Ian goes to meet Sang-woo in jail. Sang-woo says, "I didn't do anything. It's just a misunderstanding. I am the Queen Mother's father. I am the king's grandfather." Ian says, "Keep your mouth shut. The public will always remember the dirty deeds you did. And it was your daughter who told me about the crime you committed. Now you stay here and repent forever." Meanwhile, Jung-ho holds a meeting with his ministers. All the ministers are against Ian's plan to end the monarchy. They are even talking about demanding a new king. Right after this meeting, Hee-ju meets Jung-ho. She tells him directly that if he is against Ian from now on, Jung-ho will be her enemy. At the end of the episode, everyone is waiting for Ian because he's about to sit on the throne. His coronation ceremony begins with great fanfare. After the ceremony ends, Ian enters the throne hall, speaks to the people, and says, "Let's talk about ending the monarch." Inside the room are Heeju and Choi. Choi keeps repeating, "I wonder what's going on inside," but Heeju silences him. Later, Heeju remembers that she spoke to Ian before going to the throne hall. First, Heeju lists who is there, which relatives and cabinet members are present. Then Heeju asks him, "What is the first thing you want to do there?" Ian says, "I want to abolish the crown forever. Everyone will turn against me." But Heeju says she will always support him. Ian says, "You just got the title of queen. Are you ready to give that up?" Heeju says, "I never wanted status anyway. My problem was the opportunities I didn't get because of that status." Back in the throne hall, the discussion begins. And the ministers and royal family members are already against abolishing the monarch because ultimately they benefited the most from the monarchy. So no result comes out of today's discussion. Inside the room, Heeju talks to Choi. Choi says, "I don't think anyone will support Ian." Heeju says, "Then the public is the only one who can stand with Ian." On the other side, Jung-ho comes outside. The media is right there saying they heard the crown is going to be abolished. But Jung-ho says, "Don't worry. Everything will be fine." In the next scene, Irene comes to jail to meet her father. Sang-woo asks her, "How could you do this to your own father and son?" But Irene says, "My son already knew what wrong things I had done. He heard everything that day. That opened my eyes. I used to think that whatever you did was for me, but I was wrong. You will have to pay for your sins." Saying this, she leaves. But then Sang-woo tells her that Jung-ho did all this. He knew in advance the explosion at the council hall was going to happen. Irene comes outside where Jung-ho is already waiting for her. She gets scared looking at him. Jung-ho tells her, "Let me take you to the palace." Later, Irene is in the car with Jung-ho. He tells her there will be one more conversation to abolish the monarch. "I want you to turn against Ian." Irene asks, "What if I don't?" Jung-ho says, "I know what you did with the previous king, your husband. If I tell everyone how you burned the royal decree and started a fire, the public will forever know your son as a criminal. Is that what you want?" On this, Irene has no answer. Meanwhile, Ian learns that Jung-ho has blocked the palace budget. By doing this, he was just trying to pressurize Ian. This was a problem because salaries had to be paid to everyone working in the palace, and there were many other expenses. Regarding this, Heeju says there's no need to worry about money because that's the one thing she has in abundance. Ian refuses, but Heeju doesn't listen. She makes one call to the castle group and donates more money to the crown than the entire year's budget. The next day, Jung-ho's secretary tells him that this time, Castle Group helped Ian. Seeing this, Jung-ho gets furious and orders an inquiry into the Castle Group. Meanwhile, Gaeong calls Heeju and tells her what is going to happen. In the next scene, Heeju comes to meet her father. Her brother is also there. Gaeong says they will receive summonses. Everything will be investigated soon. Heeju says, "I know this is being done against me, and maybe I know who is doing it." Minjin tells his father, "I will go to the prosecutor's office to give a statement. I need to talk to the media." Gong tries to stop him, but Honguk says, "Fine, go." Heeju also starts to, but he stops her and tells Minjin to drop his sister at the palace. Minjin does so. When they arrive near the palace, Heeju tells Minjin, "My legal team is very good. Let me know if you need any help." Minjin looks at his sister and asks if she is worried, but she denies it. However, she then says, "I used to be very hard on you, but now I will try to be less hard." She calls him Appa for the first time, which makes Minjin very happy. He wants to talk more, but Heelju quickly runs inside the palace. Later, Heelju comes to Ian, who is waiting for her. She tells him she went to meet her father. Ian says she should have told him. He would have gone with her. But Heeju says, "The prosecutors will investigate us soon, but don't worry. Everything will be fine. Today, I felt proud of my brother. He will talk to the media himself and give a statement." His chest was puffed with confidence. "I think you should do something similar." Ian agrees and kisses her hand. On the other hand, Irene is seen putting her son to sleep and watching him. She remembers Jung-ho's words. "Your only son will be known as a criminal in royal history," Jung-ho had said. He never revealed this until now because it could have endangered the monarchy. Irene asks that if he cared so much for the crown, why did he try to kill Ian? To which Jung-ho says, "For what is necessary, I will do whatever it takes, as many times as I need to." Back in the present, Irene tells her son, "It's very difficult to protect you." The next day, Hajong tells Ian, "To abolish the crown, you will need Irene's support. I think you should go talk to her." But Ian says, "Let it be. Let her rest. Her fight is over." However, in the evening, Heeju goes to meet Irene and tells her, "I need your help because the royal family still listens to you." At night, Irene calls Jung-ho and says, "Fine, I will do as you said. Hearing this, Jung-ho becomes very happy. In the next scene, there is a long conversation about abolishing the monarch. Ian proposes a public vote. Jung-ho and some ministers start saying that the public chose them, so their decision represents the public. But Ian retorts, none of you would have asked for the opinion of every single member of the public. So why are you choosing on behalf of the public? You are all against this, only to save your own benefits and royal privileges. In reality, no one cares about the public's opinion. Jung-ho says that perhaps Ian doesn't know how much the crown contributes to the ground in terms of economy, diplomacy, and culture. Just then, Hee-ju arrives and says, so is that why you tried to kill Ian? Hearing this, everyone is shocked. Hee-ju then plays a recording from when Jung-ho was blackmailing Irene using her child. At the end of that conversation, Irene had asked about the attempt to kill Ian, which proves that Jung-ho was also involved with Irene's father. When Hee-ju had come to ask Irene for help, Irene had turned on the recording and said, I don't think Ian can do all this with Jung-ho. Only you can stop Jung-ho. Now everyone is listening. Cabinet members want to help Jung-ho, but Ian shouts, he tried to kill me. If anyone helps him, consider them a criminal too. Hee-ju comes out later and tells Choi to protect Ian. Meanwhile, Ian speaks to Jung-ho alone. Ian asks, did you really try to kill me? Jung-ho confesses, yes, I did. Ian asks, why? Jung-ho says, because I said just let her go, but you wouldn't allow it. It's all your fault. On this, Ian replied, how could I let her go when she was never yours? Saying this, he leaves. Just then, Choi arrives with the police to arrest him. After this, Ian's proposal is passed and a public vote is started in collaboration with the government, asking if the people still want to keep the monarchy. Hee-ju asks Ian what is the first thing he will do if it passes. Ian says he will change his name. Then he asks Hee-ju if she knows his real name. Hee-ju knew it, but it was forbidden to address royals by their name, so she never called him by his real name. Ian says that after the results, she should call him by his real name. Meanwhile, Choi and Hae-jong are at a bus stop. Choi wants to hold Hae-jong's hand, but can't muster the courage. Hae-jong says, you must be sad hearing about abolishing the monarchy, because the palace was like your home. Choi says, that's not true. Leaving the house doesn't change the family. Grand Prince, Grand Princess, and you will always remain my family, won't you? They both blush a lot. Hae-jong comes closer and kisses him. Choi then forgets all his nervousness and kisses Hae-jong back. Their bus arrives. People are shocked to see them, and even after the bus leaves, their kiss continues, and they keep blushing like a new couple. In the next scene, the results of the public survey are out. The people do not want the monarch. The crown is abolished forever. Ian comes outside. His wife is waiting for him, and as soon as she sees him, she calls him by his real name, Hwan. Ian runs to her and hugs her. Then holding each other's hands, they both leave the palace together. 3 years later, Hee-ju returns to her castle beauty company. Everyone welcomes her. She poses for the media. Inside, she looks at her nameplate and says, I missed you. But then she sees a huge pile of files and asks, what is all this? Hae-jong explains it's pending work she has to do. She sees her brother Min-jun is now the face of the company's brand. Angry, she says no one will buy this and starts stabbing the poster with a pen. Just then, Min-jun arrives and asks, can you do me a favor? You need to handle the castle card now. Hee-ju is very happy, but wonders what's gotten into him. Did father give you the electronics division? He refuses, saying their father hasn't retired yet. Then he confesses, Goang is pregnant. So I have to go on paternity leave to take care of her. Hearing this, Hee-ju gets angry and chases him to hit him, but he runs away. Meanwhile, Ian and Choi are at home cooking. Choi starts nagging him, asking when he will finally go do some work. Look at your wife, how hard she works day and night. And look at yourself, just lying around all day. But Ian protests he's just resting. Just then, he gets a call from Hee-ju, saying she be late because she has too much work and Hae-jong will also be with her. Hearing this, both of them get very sad. Later, they are at a restaurant eating sandwiches. Ian sees a ring on Choi's hand. Choi explains that their 3rd wedding anniversary passed, so they gifted each other these rings. Don't worry, your 3rd anniversary will come soon too. Ian says ours passed already, didn't it? Choi says that will be considered fake, because everything in the beginning was fake for them. But Ian says no, nothing was fake. Just then, Suki calls them over, saying she needs to talk. On the other hand, Hee-ju's father comes to meet her. He is very happy to see her back here and tells her that he will no longer let any discrimination happen against Hee-ju. She can do whatever she wants now. He will never stop her. Hearing this, Hee-ju becomes very happy. In the next scene, Ian and Choi go to Suki. Suki had brought a new bed for Ian and Hee-ju. She grabs Ian and sits him on a bed. Ian asks why she did this. Suki says, 3 years have passed, but we still have no heir, so I want you to prepare for that. But Ian says they can't because his wife is busy. In the evening, Hee-ju comes home. She is shocked to see Ian waiting and asks why he is standing there. Ian says, "How can I sleep when my wife isn't home yet?" Hee-ju apologizes but says there's more pressure on her now because Minjin won't work anymore as Gaeong is pregnant and he'll take care of her. But she is happy because she got castle card, but Ian gets a little sad. At night, they are sleeping together. Ian talks to Hee-ju and says he should get a ring, but Hee-ju is sleepy and tells him not to worry about such things. Ian tries to explain, but Hee-ju falls asleep. In the next scene, Ian is with Irene at a shop. Irene buys a violin for her son. Irene wants her son to become a musician. Ian pays for it and says, "Tell my nephew it's a gift from me." Their relationship has also been fixed, and they have become friends again like in high school days. In the evening, Ian and Choi are together. Ian has flowers and starts talking about the proposal and ring, but then Choi sees Hee-ju rising behind them and signal. Ian looks back, embarrassed. Hee-ju has overheard his conversation, ruining the surprise. Later, Hee-ju talks to Ian, asking what all this is. "Is this why you were talking about the ring? But why do this again? We're already married, aren't we?" Ian says, "I know that was fate." But Hee-ju refuses, saying, "My real feelings for you started from that day itself. Wasn't it the same for you?" Saying this, she gets upset and walks away. Ian follows her to appease her. Hee-ju takes out a fan and fanning herself asks, "Fine, what about you? When did you start liking me?" Ian confesses, "From the beginning, from the first time you said your name," meaning from high school, when she had come to the archery ground at night. He had liked her since then. Ian tells her that she was like a shining star in the darkness that he wanted to follow. After graduation, he thought maybe they would meet again. Sadly, they didn't, but then he saw her again at the king's birthday banquet. Ian was mesmerized just looking at Hee-ju. Hee-ju says, "And then you followed me." Ian comes and kisses Hee-ju. He says, "Yes, I came as soon as I could so I wouldn't lose you again." In the next scene, Ian comes to see an exhibition and sees a king's outfit. He then comes outside. Hee-ju runs up, apologizing for being late, and asks if he saw the exhibition. He confirms and says, "It's okay. You're late. Let's go." They leave together. Then they all go to watch a baseball game. Hee-ju, Ian, Choi, and Haegong are all together. There, Ian could wear a jersey just like Hee-ju. Once again, the kiss cam lands on them. Hee-ju makes the sign of the cross. Ian says, "Let's speed things up a bit." And they both kiss happily because they no longer have to maintain any decorum. And with this happy ending, the drama ends here. So if you liked this drama, let me know in the comments. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Thanks for watching.